Welcome to It's All Geek to Me, the pop culture chat show where three friends with varying degrees of nerd knowledge get together each week to have a chat about all things geek. My name is Rich Gittins, and joining me from the dead this week is my buddy Chris Lumb. Ooh, Lummy, you there? Lummy. Lummy. Okay, you kind of scaring me a little bit now, Lummy. We didn't discuss this. Lummy, hi. Well, joining me from beyond the grave, it's our buddy Nathan Webb.
Oh yes, some cheap ass Halloween.
Dude,
There you go. Oh, sorry, blinding me.
Look at Lummy, dude.
It looks the same as
Is
he always does.
he going to do what? Can you not see? The scary face, right, Lummy? Can you not? Come on, don't piss about. You can see that.
I could just see. Yeah, I can see Lummy.
Fuck right, you can't see that scary face. You can't see that scary face.
Nope.
Right.
But you know me, I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Okay, well look, let's bring out our good friend Natalie Smeaton and see if she can shed any light on this. Hi Nat. Oh, hi Nat. How you doing?
Hi, yeah, how you doing? Sorry, just conjuring spirits, you know.
Right. Seriously, that face has just gone.
What face?
Where the fuck's Lummy? Right. Can you see Lummy?
I think you look beautiful, Nat.
Oh, thank you.
What? No,
I've got my few ghost earrings in. I'm a bit
sorry,
tired.
guys, can we stop pissing about?
What's happening with the
nails? Can you see Lummy? I can't see Lummy. Right, seriously.
Hey, fucking
hell!
I had a bit of internet connectivity problems. I don't know what was going on.
No. Right, seriously, did you not see the scary face, right, Lummy's? Did you? Right, I'm being serious.
I was just late to the show. Sorry about that. Sorry.
I mean, I think you've been a bit rude about Lummy's face, to be honest. I just saw Lummy.
Lummy's face is beautiful, but
hey, look, none of us are getting any younger, but he's still got it.
Happy Halloween, everybody. What are you up to?
Well, I've been trick-or-treating.
Sorry, I'm a bit freaked out by that.
It's August. I like to get started early. I do, yeah. I like to get a jump on everybody, get the good sweets before all the bad shit comes through. You know, the razor blades and an apple and all that.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah. I'm thinking about actually buying some sweets, a bucket of sweets, and letting the kids have the sweet. Look.
It's going to be one of them shows, isn't it?
And props. Just had a few things lying about.
The thing is, you haven't run any of this bias at the start of the show. This is brilliant.
He's been waiting. He's had this stuff in his back pocket for months. He's been waiting for an opportunity. Looking around his room at rusty knives and stuff.
Martin's here.
Hello, Martin. Welcome to our Halloween spectacular. And welcome, ladies and gents, to It's All Geek to Me. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so, just like our good buddy Martin just did then. Nathan, what have you been up to this week, besides eating lots of sweets and things like that?
Oh, yeah, when I'm not trick-or-treating, I like to relax by bobbing for apples. I don't think it should be done once a year or even at parties, just every night. So, give you a tip. Get a bin, not a used bin, get a new bin, fill it full of water, few apples, hours worth of fun. Hours worth.
I mean, you have literally just described bobbing for apples. That is your hot tip.
I don't know if anybody's
all
ever
year
heard
round?
of this custom. Yeah, all year round, every night, whenever you like. I don't think it should be just reserved for Halloween and stuff. I just think, any times. When don't you enjoy sticking your face into water and not being able to breathe?
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Partially drowning yourself for a fruitful reward. Literally.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping we get finished a bit early tonight because my water's coming up to room temperature. I don't want to Get a
You don't
cold
like doing it
finish.
cold? No, of course you don't. Lummy, what about you? What have you been up to this week? I know you had those internet problems.
That's just gigs.
Excellent.
It gets more exciting every week when you tell that. Tell us that story about the
What
gigs.
do you want me to say? We had gigs. We got loads of gigs on. We did
Are
it.
you feeling better? You were feeling a little bit under the weather
I
last week.
had a very bad cold last week. I felt awful, and I didn't want to do all. And I had to go gigging, and I felt like shite.
Oh.
Jesus.
Nat knows you were there at one of them, weren't you?
Professional.
I was
Did he
professional on that. That Saturday night we did it at Harrogate.
You know what? He got the job done. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to catch his lurgy now? Because I'll be annoyed at him if he's passed his germs on to
I
you.
would have smashed his face in if he'd have given me his lurgy.
Yeah,
Straight
should
up.
have punched you in the throat, Lummy.
Straight up.
And that's what we're bad as well. We're bad, so I wouldn't have helped. I wouldn't have
Oh,
helped.
yeah.
Finish with you.
By
the time she's finished with you, you'll be waiting. You'll be wishing you had a cold, mate. You'll be thinking, I wish I just had a cold instead of all these lacerations and broken bones.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
What have you been up to this week, Nat, besides threatening to beat up Lummy?
Threatening to beat up Lummy, obviously. Just general mayhem, murder. It's that spooky season, isn't it? So if you can't go out and ritually sacrifice a few virgins and then dance in the moonlight covered in their blood, then what can you do in October?
Yeah,
just the usual.
That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Is you work at Lush? Have they gone all Halloween? Have they gone all out on Halloween? Have they got any Halloween themed products this year?
I've got to say,
for Lush, see if we can get some of their money.
They've got a fantastic range of Halloween products, and all of the ingredients, you know, the virgin's bloods, everything that's been used in them is all organic. Ethically sourced
from Lush, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And we asked the virgin's permission before we used any of it. So so you can have a bath in the knowledge that.
So do we? I mean, as Lush's official representative, on this show, do we need to sort of put a legal sort of thing out there going, Lush doesn't have virgin's blood in their products? Allegedly,
only if you're a pussy.
Yeah, man.
Well, if any lawyers representing Lush are watching the show, please send your legal letter to Chris Lumb.
Hey,
forward the complaints to me. I'll gladly deal with anything. I've heard it all. I've dealt with that many complaints from our comedy nights. I can handle anything. Send them all in.
What's the latest complaint you've had? I know you had the one the other week. There was a lady the other week who was incredibly rude.
The two serious to actually, because they're all from morons. So. You know,
what you mean?
I had a lady complain about my Chris Tarrant impression because I did this thing called "Who Wants to Guess the Sexually Transmitted Disease?" Right. Bearing in mind, the audience member I'd spoke to get out to play this with me as Chris Tarrant was worked in a sexual health clinic, so everybody in the audience was in on the joke. And in the second section, I got her out and did this game. And even halfway through, I stopped and went, "What are we doing? This is crazy." And everybody were in on it, but this one person didn't like it. And I thought,
dude.
You know,
which one of the diseases? Which one of the diseases did they have, dude?
HPV.
No, they had to guess. I had to tell them the symptoms, and the lady I got out of the audience had to tell them.
So it wasn't just a case of you picking people out in the audience.
No, that's horrific. No, that's not funny and insulting.
Chlamydia, bastard.
No, it was actually the game show. Yeah.
Good Lord, can't people lighten up and just have a laugh, man? Jeez.
Clearly not. I mean, going to a comedy club to have a laugh, they're already on a.
You know, the clues in the night you get.
Yeah, you think so, yeah.
Maybe there's going to be jokes.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But she did not like that bit, no.
Well, I hope her fanny gets a ghost in it.
Probably has.
A haunted vagina. Brilliant.
That was one of the symptoms, I think, of the.
There's nothing wrong with a haunted vagina.
No, there isn't. No. You know, let's get rid of that stigma straight away.
Yeah, a lot of women.
It depends. It depends what it's haunted by. I mean, surely if it's a poltergeist, then there might be something wrong with that.
What if it's haunted by a better vagina?
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
Wowzers!
How does that work? What?
I don't know.
You mean somebody died and then haunted your vagina?
Somebody's vagina died and haunted your vagina. Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
Wow, what a topic!
I'm not sure how it works. I'm not a sex doctor.
I'm not sure this is where I saw our Halloween special going tonight.
It's exactly where I saw it going.
Always count on Webby.
These are the hard-hitting questions that people want to know at Halloween, you know.
Is this that mystery segment you were talking about, Webby?
No.
Oh my goodness, my cat.
No, that's it.
It's showing us in arsehole. Yeah, it just
Happy
what's happening now.
Halloween.
Yeah, it's all happening.
It's the scariest thing I've ever seen.
You know, it's Halloween when you're staring into a cat's bumhole.
Starfish.
Jeez,
Oh,
this is
dear.
crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
Halloween. Anybody got
So,
any Halloween plans? Halloween parties?
Oh, do you know what?
Lunch.
It's going to be really lovely. Anyone who lives in my local area, i.e. Beeston and Hunsley, the big like
It's
communal
Halloween every night.
where it is Halloween every night. The big communal area is having like a kids' night. What's your mum doing here?
Who's that? She's pretty.
The big communal area is having a kids' Halloween party from 5:30 to 7:30, and they can get dressed up and they can go win prizes. So if you live in Hunslet or Beeston, get yourself down there, get to the mall. That's what I'll be doing with my nieces and nephews.
And is that going to be safe down there?
Yeah,
Don't you start. Lord.
as safe as you can be
start.
on
You're the last
Halloween.
person I expected to get all uppity about Halloween, Lummy. Struggling enough.
I'm only kidding.
It's all
We
right.
got
Halloween's all right as long as you buy everything you need for Halloween from Asda, and it's all made out of plastic. Beautiful, beautiful plastic.
There you are. You heard it here. That's It's All Geek to me's official line on Halloween.
official sponsor.
Beautiful.
Martin's chimed in. Chris, when are you doing gigs anyway? I mean, it's not Halloween related, but November the 13th, we're at MCM Comic Con in Birmingham, Martin, but it's a bit expensive to get in. So
that's pretty spooky. It's a tenuous link, but it'll be a link that's spooky that Martin just asked, and you just happen to be there in a few days.
Whoa.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like
Sam Hain, right
it's literally 3 weeks away.
Well, ladies and gents, we have decided we're going to talk about some of the scariest things that we've ever seen, whether it be on TV or in the movies. And so feel free to leave a comment down below on the scariest things that you've ever seen on TV or on the big screen. But let us go to our lovely guest, Natalie Smeaton, first. Natalie, what is the scariest thing that when you were a kid scared the bejesus out of you?
Or an adult.
Actually, what?
Or an adult.
Might have been an adult.
Or an adult. Yeah. Actually, I already told Chris a couple, but as soon as you said that, two more immediately sprung to mind. When I was a kid, the film that scared me the absolute most was Jaws.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely scared the life out of me, to the point where I was even scared to get a bath. And I would get in the bath, but I would keep it very shallow. And I can't, still to this day, I can't hang my hands or feet out of bed. Not because there might be a monster under my bed, but because the Jaws might get me. Yeah.
So my mum and dad, they used to have a house in Spain, right? And I used to be the only kid who'd use the swimming pool there, so I'd find myself in the pool all the time. And because of James Bond, I was petrified of sharks in the swimming pool. There's 3 things as a kid that
I thought you were petrified
me. There's 3 things as a kid that petrified me that I have not had to worry about anywhere near as much in my adult life as I thought I did, and that's sharks, quicksand, and the Bermuda Triangle. I used to just stare at that shit on the map, just being like, "No, it's too scary."
Yeah. I used to do the same thing with the Bermuda Triangle, and I used to think the worst thing about that is if I were chartering the flight, I could plan it to go around the Bermuda Triangle, but if the pilot's in charge, they might just decide to fly through that shit without checking with me.
If he's a maverick, he would, yeah.
And it took me years to realise my plug hole were nowhere near. That sounds rude, but my plug hole were nowhere near wide enough to allow a massive shark to swim up it.
Yeah,
but I did used to cup my testicles.
But I did try.
On the toilet
really?
in case it swam up. Yeah, I did used to try and retract them. So in case I thought if a shark swims up the toilet, you bend. First thing I'm gonna bite.
What about rats coming up the toilet? You ever read about that?
That is a real thing.
That's a real thing.
That's terrifying.
And that's a recent thing, isn't it? I read a thing about it. We're happening. Yeah.
Oh man, have you guys ever heard of a rat king?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mate.
What?
So when rats,
What?
so there's no theory. There's a couple of theories behind what this is. When rats die en masse, they link their tails together and they die like that. So they die in a big crown of rats, all linked by the tails twisted around each other. Scientists don't know if they're doing it to huddle together for warmth or if their tails secrete some kind of
magical properties
or magical property that keeps them warm or something like that. There's no real explanation, but they find these things all over the world. And
is it not a case
like ancient?
But is it what? So they go to where the circle of rats are to die, or is it just when they die, if they happen to die and they're close to each other?
Yeah.
Right. Is it not the case then
out.
that as they die, their tails will slowly kind of start to maybe curl up a bit, and they might catch each other, and by doing that, though,
nobody knows. And also, well,
sorry to try to throw logic into.
No, some people have tried that and they've tried studying it, but they can't really figure out why they do it. So it's like some scientist's job to do that for a living.
I think it's like,
just watch these rats till they all die and see what happens and tell us about it later.
I think it's just one pissed off rat, and that one rat's going, if I'm dying, you're all dying with me, and it just ties them all up. That's what I think it is. One rat starts it.
It is,
or maybe the last rat's job is to be like, right, guys,
tie them all up.
So I told you I did it for you, Peter. Hey, John.
Or maybe one pranks the rats like, I know what's a good idea. While these guys are asleep, I'm going to tie all the fucking tails together like the shoelace prank. And then they can't get free.
We've got big team Oz and Ryan.
But they haven't got opposable.
Welcome. Sorry,
because they haven't got opposable thumbs. They can't undo the knots once they've done them.
That's
like,
it.
Sorry,
guys.
Yeah, Webby the rat
whisperer, or the whack whisperer.
We've got another comment from Matt here. When I was a child, my parents wanted to decorate one of the rooms, so they put me in front of a TV with a film called Awakening. Wasn't the Robin Williams one, but a guy gets possessed by an Egyptian mummy. Basically, found out years later. The film was banned at the time. Didn't sleep for a while.
Wow. I mean,
what was the first horror film that any of you saw, and how old were you?
Well, we might tell you if you let us do a segment.
well, but that's not what the segment question is. The segment question is the scariest thing. Okay, so it was the first
same thing, motherfucker.
First scary film I saw was the first scary film. It's all subjective because things scare the shit out of you for no reason when you're a kid.
Of course.
I think one of them was definitely Jaws, where I first thought, "Oh my god!" But the first traditional horror film I watched, and I had to pretend that I was totally fine, was the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and I watched it with a group of mates.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
And it was quite terrifying because you're just thinking to yourself, "Well, I never thought about any of this shit, and now I've got to think about Freddy Krueger." And I used to have nightmares about it, but in my nightmares, Freddy Krueger, I always knew I was safe because some part of my brain that was logical made Freddy Krueger blind in my dreams. So he'd be staggering around the house trying to find me, but he couldn't find me because he was blind.
You know that's actually based on like a truth. Like this freaks me out even more about Nightmare on Elm Street, which is my favorite traditional slasher movie. Right? Is that actually it was based on something that was killing young men from Thailand?
You're right. Yeah,
men were dying in their sleep. They would tell their families that they were having awful nightmares and they couldn't sleep very well, and if they did go to sleep that they would die, and then lo and behold within a couple of weeks they would die in their sleep during a nightmare.
Have you watched the Netflix thing?
I haven't seen it yet.
It mentions it on there as well.
Cool. I thought I'd watch them a lot quicker this time, but I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't got around to it.
Slowed down. I've watched the first two.
The first horror films I ever saw, I can't remember which way around it was, but it was either the original The Blob or the zombie flesh eaters. And I remember being sat as a family, like when I was we lived in Wales at the time, so I must have been about 6 or 7 watching that with my family. And I'm still pretty amazed that that was okay with them.
I saw a few video nasties when I was quite young, like Cannibal Holocaust, and I spit on your grave.
God.
Oh God!
Yeah, when I was really young, like 11, 12 maybe. Yeah.
Did you ever do that thing where you went to a video shop as well and rented as many horror films as you can? I did that at one point.
Yeah.
Every Friday when I was a teenager. Yeah. Just the worst covers, whatever made you pick it up because the cover was so strong.
Yeah,
Some of them,
absolutely.
the covers were way better.
I mean,
Yeah,
back then you had a good video cover, didn't you? You know, they were all good. Now it's all Photoshop shite, you know.
I used
So,
to like
Nat-
the covers for House. Do you remember the covers for House?
Yeah,
And on
yeah.
the first one, it had a skeleton
Oh,
zombie hand ringing the
shit, I forgot
doorbell.
about
And on the
House.
second one, it was the hand doing a 2 for House 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they continued that theme. I thought it was cool.
And House 2 was a comedy film compared to the others. Really bizarre.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we used to have House 2 on VHS. Nat, sorry, what is the scariest things that you ever seen? So you were just talking about when you were a kid.
Yeah, Jaws, particularly the 2 bits in Jaws where one, the guys use their wife's like Thanksgiving or whatever it was, or July 4th meat to try catch the shark, and you know the bit where they throw it in the water, and then the shark takes it and it breaks the pier, and then the guy's swimming back, and his friend's going swim, and you think he's going to get got, but he doesn't. That's one of the things that scared the absolute life out of me. And the other is when Richard Dreyfuss was diving and the head pops out of the boat. Obviously,
that's
classic
massively
jump
famous.
scare.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
still makes me jump now.
And it was a bit that put in that wasn't in the original cut. They went and put that back in after test audiences because it wasn't jumpy enough.
Thank God
really?
they did. Yeah, thank God
cool
they did.
then.
Horrendous.
Speaking of Jaws, there's that play out at the moment, isn't there? That's supposed to be brilliant. It's got like 5-star reviews.
Is that the shark is broken one?
Yeah.
Yeah, looks good, doesn't it?
I've not heard of that.
Yeah.
Me neither.
You've not heard of it? It looks great. It's got Robert Shaw's son in it as well, playing Quinn.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought you'd have known about that, Rich.
No,
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's about them on the basically on the boat arguing behind the scenes. It's supposed to be brilliant.
Yeah, good things. Yeah.
Get some
If anybody
tickets.
ever
Get some
created
tickets, Rich.
If anybody ever created a
Do my
play
best.
just for Lummy, that's the one, isn't it?
Well, if John Candy was in it.
I'm hoping it'll be on
probably.
at the Fringe next year, but I don't know. They sometimes shop those around to Fringes and stuff, but it's already on in London.
I'll have a look out for it. What else, Nat? What else was on your list of scariest things you've ever seen?
There is like the one that I told Lummy, and then there's one that I didn't, because it just popped into my brain now. I think because I mentally was so scarred by the one that I didn't tell Lummy, so I'll come to that in a minute. But I'll never forget when the Doctor Who series started back up, how absolutely terrifying the Weeping Angels were. Can we just talk about that?
There you go.
Of course we can. Yes.
How can we not be absolutely terrified by the fact that there is a thing that when you look at it, it looks like a statue, but you can't blink or else it will steal your life force and send you back. Look at it.
That's pretty terrifying, actually.
Like, you can't blink. If you take your eyes off it, it's closer. And you take your eyes off it again and it's closer. And then before you know it, it's got you.
Ah.
How long are you not meant to blink for?
If you blink, it comes closer.
I thought if you turn away as well, if you're not looking at it, if you turn
You're not
away,
looking
it's
at
got
it.
you. It's got you.
Yeah.
It's coming for your web.
I like stuff like that. There's an old Stephen King short story about a painting with a figure in it that keeps moving around, and that's shit scary as well. I can't remember, something to do with a well, maybe. I might be mixing my horrors up.
Have you read the one with the photo as well, where the dog is coming closer and closer?
That might be the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Big Team Oz just said when I was a kid, Ghoulies. Do you remember that?
Ghoulies, yes.
Creature
And
Box
Critters. Critters.
Yeah. Ghoulies. Ghoulies, there were 3 of them. The last one was Ghoulies Go to College.
Yeah.
Critters, there were 5 of them, I think, and one of them had DiCaprio in, didn't it?
It was sort of competition. Well, it tried to be a bit like Gremlins, didn't it? But it went a bit heavy on the horror. But yeah, very, very silly stuff.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And because there's a lot in Doctor Who that scared a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked the other week about Davros scaring people and things like that. It's amazing for something that was such a primetime TV show. Maybe that's why, because it was at that time where you actually felt safe watching TV. And then suddenly there was this thing that pushed the boundaries of what is acceptable for young people to watch.
Yeah,
Martin's just chimed in with that as well. Look, following on from Awakenings, the next movie which I'm proud to start was MASH, it was called Deadly Weapons. And
I
say,
back in the day. That's right. That should be remade for today's modern audience. That
you could do that back in the day, couldn't you?
Her weapons are a boobs, basically, and they're so deadly.
Is it barbed wire or whatever? It was
Never
Pamela
been a better
Anderson?
time for Stan Lee to appear in the MON.
Why is it here? It shouldn't be here on this show. Shouldn't be here. You know, when I was in charge at Marvel, we'd use anything as a deadly weapon on anybody's body.
I like the fact that when we were just talking about boobs for a second, Stanley just appeared and didn't say anything and then just disappeared again. It's like,
Somebody say
talking about
boobs. When I was at Marvel, I used to jaw the ladies with the biggest boobs. I love his
That scene in
stories.
Weird Science.
Good lord.
Weird science.
What about you, Lummy? What is the
Hang on,
scariest thing?
I think Nat's got some.
Oh, have you got another
There
one?
was just
Nat?
one more. Just
Go on,
one more.
yeah.
I'm just going to lay it out there. And I'm not talking about the American remake, which is nowhere near as scary, but the original Japanese version of The Ring.
Oh,
I genuinely, it's the only horror movie that's ever made me not sleep. I didn't sleep the night after I watched it.
Do you know what's so
Really?
brilliant about it? It's because it's Japanese, it completely subverts how an American makes a horror film. So it throws you off kilter. You're not expecting it because everything's so formulaic when it's done in America. Oh, there's somebody behind the door. They're going to look in a mirror and somebody's going to appear behind. And they don't really do it like that. And because you're not familiar with it, it really sets you off.
Yeah.
What's the one where they all...
Absolutely
what is
right.
it? Have you ever seen The Forest, Nat? Is that the one where... There's a forest in Japan where where people just go to kill themselves. Yeah, that was pretty...
Yeah, that's pretty horrific. And the
Somebody got in there.
That's based on...
That's a real
Logan
thing.
Paul. Yeah, Logan
Was
Paul
it?
went and made a video about it.
Was it him? I thought it was somebody else who got banned.
No.
They went and filmed in there and saw somebody...
Logan Paul did it, and they filmed a dead body, and they were all laughing and things like that, you know. And I think their justification, they were laughing because you felt uncomfortable going and being in that situation. But I certainly am not going to make any apologies.
They did a cool little horror movie around the theme of why people go into the forest and what happens, and yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
I think it might have had an American cast, but it was filmed in Japan.
It had is it Natalie? She was in Game of Thrones. She married Joffrey.
Sharma.
Yeah, that actress from the Tudors. She was in it. Yeah, it was very good. But
cool,
The Ring kept me awake for a whole day, and then the Korean versions of Korean versions of The Grudge or Japanese versions.
Ju-on.
Just kept me awake. The absolutely horrible. That's my worst kind of horror. That. Can't deal with.
What did you think of the American version of The Ring? Have you seen it?
I didn't like it. I just felt like they were trying too hard. Like one of the best bits in the Ring in the Japan version is she thinks that she's broken the curse, and she's slowly realizing that she hasn't because her husband essentially watched it, and then they found loads of stuff out, and I won't spoil it, but she thinks she's broken the curse, and then her husband dies because he hasn't been broken. And then there's a bit where she's sat and she's in front of a blank TV screen, and the camera moves, and when it moves back, he's stood behind her in the reflection of the TV screen with a towel over his head. It's just little tiny things like that. Like it just horrible, but amazing.
That's great. It's great when that can happen live as well. I know the stage show, The Woman in Black, I know the film isn't really that scary, but the stage show is brilliant because they tell that story by Susan Hill as a play within a play. So it's Arthur Kipps's thing happened to him when he was a kid, when he was younger. It's affected his whole life. His kids are sat around telling ghost stories. He wants to tell them, he wants to warn them basically because of what happened to him. He can't tell them because he's just over-engaged with the story. So he hires a young actor to help him tell this story, and they put it on as a play. And so you're sat there watching a play within a play, and you know it's a two-hander. And they're imagining a dog on stage and all this sort of stuff. And then suddenly, at the end, this fucking woman in black just glides down the aisle between in the stalls, and the screams coming out of that theatre are huge. There's a PE teacher that I know go to see the show every year with his students, a big rugby player, and he comes out shivering every single time he sees it.
How do they make her glide down the thing? Is it on wires or?
It's just the way that she moves, just down, I think, because of the long veil that she's wearing.
Skateboarding
Skateboarding down, she's on roller skates. But when they did it in Australia, the lady that did it didn't realise what the reaction was going to be. So on opening night, she's gliding down through the stalls. Everybody screams, and then she freaks her out, and she goes, "Oh my god!" Like that. It just completely ruined the end of the show. It's just like, fucking
Just
hell.
waiting for somebody to
it's a
stand
really
up and
cool-
deck this poor actress in the black costume. Oh,
Martin-
you
Martin's-
get those.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Oh
Martin,
god, there's
yeah.
one called is it the Eye, which again the remake's terrible, but the Japanese one where she goes for an eye transplant and they give her somebody's old eye and it can still see the memories from this person. So she gets this eye transplant, and it's the one. Maybe that's The Grudge. Whenever she picks up the phone, the spook thing is on the phone, and it just goes.
That's The Grudge. That's The Grudge. That noise.
And it makes that horrible noise. There's
Yeah.
the Eye as well has got a few jump scares in it because she's in the hospital in broad daylight and she's had this operation, but the thing that's chasing her is right there in the daylight in front of everybody. It's really pretty eerie.
Lummy, what's the scariest thing you have seen on TV or on the big screen?
Right.
I
Fucking
genuinely
hell.
thought we were going to have that video of James Corden in a bunny suit. Pelvic
No,
thrust
it's not.
on a mouse
It's not that. That was just a bit of a gag for you. Going back to, I mean, it was scary actually. Going back to Doctor Who, Daleks.
Yeah.
As a kid, terrified me. My middle brother, Richard, used to watch Doctor Who all the time. He was obsessed with it, and I was a bit too young to, he'd be out set going.
Understand it,
I didn't get it. So I've never really liked Doctor Who actually, and I wonder if it comes from this. And
That's
also,
a good
it's
point.
I think so. I think so.
also
Do you know what else I think? I think because you're so young when you watch it and you are convinced that it's really scary, even though as an adult when you look at it, you can see the zips on the costumes and they're not particular. Cybermen, they're not scary. It's a ridiculous outfit.
The original Cybermen they were a bit weird. Because I think sometimes when stuff's more low budget, I think it's a bit more realistic in a way. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Especially stuff like that. Because they've got they've literally putting people in suits. They can't do big blob monsters and things. They've got to go, well, we've only got this, you'll have to do it. So if you look at the original Cybermen, there's something about them where you're like, no.
Creepy.
No. There were a few episodes of Doctor Who, though, where the one where these people who walked out of the sea as well, these like sea serpent guys, and that were a bit weird because you were like, what? They're coming out of the sea?
The X-Files was pretty good at doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
Occasionally it would throw a really spooky episode out there,
Yeah,
something that would just stick with you. Yeah, I get that. Totally.
Yeah.
I like stuff like that. A show like X-Files is good for
Yeah, but we're talking about Doctor Who.
surprising you with the. I know. Same with Doctor Who though. They're not all scary, are they? But there's one or two per series that are designed.
There was an X-Files series, wasn't there, where they went to somebody's house and it were all incestuous. Do you remember? And the mother and kids. Have you seen that one? It got banned, I think, the episode in the end. And it were like these two guys keeping the mother alive, and they were really like, but really like, it was. But yeah, I think it got banned. I think it's shown now, but at the time it were like, we can't ever show that again.
Oh my god!
I think it was called Home. But yeah, so check that out. But yeah, Davros, Davros, the leader of the Daleks as well. He was a bit. I didn't like him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Fuck off him. Fucking jerk. I've got another couple of things very quickly. When I was a kid, I remember Nightmare on Elm Street 3 for some reason, right? I'm not a fan. Yeah, 3, right? This happens in it. I've got a picture. Right.
Oh, yeah.
The tendons.
For some reason, I hate it when stuff's happening to people's like arms, like even injections going in and things like that. Like Train Spotting, when they show that close up with the needle with it, I'm like, no. Can't handle that. I don't know why.
Pulp Fiction's got a pretty gratuitous one in it as well.
Yeah.
I don't like where she gets the needle through her heart
as well. But before he goes there, he goes to meet Mia Wallace, I only remember this. I just watched it a few weeks ago. Before he goes there, he's at the drug dealer's house and he injects himself. But you see the thing properly go in and stuff.
How are you in Terminator? In Terminator, when he cuts open.
That's all right.
Is that all right? It's because he's
It's weird. It's just that wince. It's not even scary. It just makes you like Exorcist has got a scene where she's having all the hospital tests go, and she gets injected in that, and blood spurts out, and you're like,
oh yeah, that's what they give her, the lumbar puncture in it, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, no.
She's crying her eyes out because that's famously really, really painful. So yeah, I think they nailed that bit. She's terrified in it. Yeah, it's horrible.
And then the other thing, this is from when I was a kid as well. My eldest brother used to watch horror films on night, and I shared a room with him. And he once had this film on, the first horror film I remember seeing when I was small, and it's called Lair of the White Worm. And it absolutely terrified me.
Hugh Grant's in it, Christ.
Yeah, Hugh Grant, and but it's like she's like this vampire creature thing, and it, like feeding people to this worm in this cave. It's like, oh yeah, really.
You reminded me of one that I always get confused with that because the titles are quite similar, and it's got that guy who died a few years ago, a guy called Lucas Haas.
Oh right, yeah,
quite a good actor, and he started as a child actor. And he died.
Wasn't he in Witness? Is that the same kid?
Yes, he is. But one of his first films, I'm just having a look for it now, because I still can't remember the name. It's a ghost story, and it's set in like Maine, in a town. And basically, he gets locked in the school cupboard by the bully of the school. And while he's there, he sees a ghost. He sees it, and it's pretty terrifying. You guys carry on. I'll try and find the name of it for you. It's a really good ghost story.
Bob said hello.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Bob. How you doing, mate? Nice to see you.
If you want a picture taking, go to Bob. Look at that on his profile.
Oh, yeah. He's also in Mars Attacks, is Lucas Haas. He plays the kid who figures out that opera kills the thing. The yodeling kills the aliens. He plays the kid in it.
I've got to apologise for the Sex and the City picture that I put. Sorry.
Yeah. And that was pre-Watershed as well.
Yeah,
that is
sorry.
something we are talking about, some things pre-Watershed.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
Oh, dude.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. It's called, that film, by the way, is called Lady in White. It's from 1988. An author tells the story of how he, as a young boy growing up in the late 60s, was haunted after witnessing the murder of a little girl. But because he's locked in the cupboard at school by this bully, he has to stay there all night. And this ghost comes into the room and he sees the ghost of the little girl get murdered by somebody. And you're thinking teacher, caretaker, whatever. I have to say that who it eventually is, you don't expect it, who does the murder. But it's terrifying. He's trapped in the room. And it's Halloween. And he's got this mask, which he took to school as his Halloween costume. And the only way he can get away from this vision of this ghost is by putting the mask over his face and just cowering in the fucking corner. It's terrifying. Wow. Yeah.
Was Lair of the White Worm your first horror film you ever saw then?
I think so. I think I remember it being, pretty young.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else for us?
No, I think I'm pretty much done on that one.
Thank you very much. Webby, what is the scariest thing that you have ever seen on TV or on the big screen?
I change as I'm getting older. Now I'm a dad. It's changed. The scariest thing I can think of happening, and I don't watch anymore, is pretty much anything to do with kids getting murdered or getting stolen or getting lost. Things like Don't Look Now would be my fucking nightmare. I don't know if you remember Don't Look Now. Donald Sutherland.
Horrendous.
Oh, and they've lost their kid, and they keep seeing this kid in a red coat all around this town. It's fucking terrifying. So it's changed. It used to be anything based in reality. So, for example, The Exorcist is a story about a woman who's a famous actress who doesn't believe in God, who comes home one day to find out that her kid is possessed by the devil. So she has to confront that. And I find that as a concept really interesting. Same with things like Paranormal Activity, which is about a couple that live in a house, like that don't really believe in ghosts and shit, but a ghost. It's things like that. What was my third one? I've forgotten the third. Blair Witch, another one. It's not what you see in this film; it's what you don't see that creeps you out.
Do you know what? The Blair Witch was spoilt for us over in UK because when it came out in the States, nobody knew what it was. But then there were loads of hype. I remember over here, and it got leaked what it were all about. and I'd have liked to have seen it without knowing any of that. But
because the original concept was for it to be about footage,
Found footage,
that was
wasn't it?
leaked and found
Yeah.
in the thing,
Yeah.
and put
Yeah,
it
yeah,
together. And
All
that is how I
I-
first heard of it, though. I missed
me
all
too.
the hype,
Me
so
too.
I
That's
managed
all I
to
ever
get it
knew
on
about that
the-
film, except
Yeah.
for when it came out. I worked at the Odeon, and some of you guys might have been there. We went to a screening of it, and it was just us, and everybody in that place was convinced it was a documentary at the time.
yeah,
And then what disappointed me about that film were two things. Number one, I then watched the general public go to see it and come out of it going, there were no witch, wasn't scary, didn't see how missing the point of the film completely.
well, we saw
And then
that
the other
loads of
thing-
times, didn't we, at cinema? They were all dumbasses, basically, who came out of film saying stuff like that. And you went, Jesus Christ.
all the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And you just think, is that what you want? The same fucking horror movie every time? I think we're different as audiences. And then the other thing that ruined it for me was when I worked at Blockbusters after that, Blair Witch 2 had come out, Book of Shadows, which is the worst
Awful.
sequel. But that's
Haven't
not what
seen
ruined it. What ruined it, what made me not be able to take Blair Witch Project seriously anymore was they released a soft porn film. Right? Wait a minute.
no.
It wasn't
Is
even
called
based
The
on the
Bear
first one.
Bitch?
Based on the second film. The title was called The Blair Witch. Oh God, what was it called? The Blair Witch Book of Shagging instead of Book
What?
of Shagging.
They haven't even done the clever title.
The Blair
No.
Witch 2 Book of Shagging. And I just thought, oh, I can never look at that film.
Surely
again,
they could just
yeah.
call it The Bear Witch or something.
Yeah.
I mean, surely.
But on a separate note as well, I think what adds to a horror for me is if it's got a little bit of folklore about it. So if you do some digging into the Blair Witch and read about the witches it was based on and the place it's based on, that massive forest that there's stuff going on in there nobody could know because it's so dense in there. So I like that. I like when you can read a bit about the theories behind where this idea came from. One of them in particular, which I told Gittins about earlier, is Pennywise. I'm obsessed with where I want to see the movie
the lore behind Pennywise. I'd love to as well. You're right.
origin story. And I know they got close in the sequel to it Part 2, whatever it is, Book 2, whatever it is. And they showed you a little bit of him, and I think he's called Robert Gray, and it shows you him doing his makeup, and he looks just as evil, but he doesn't look like Pennywise. But you see that little link, and I'm sort of fascinated with that. But I always was, even as a kid, when I saw Freddy Krueger, there were books out at the time, these little cheap pulp novels about Freddy Krueger, and one of them, I can't remember if it's his official canon, but it postulated that Freddy Krueger, his mother was a nun, and she used to work in an insane asylum, and she went to work one day and got locked in a room with 1,000 maniacs, and that's where Freddy Krueger came. She was raped by 1,000 maniacs, and that's why Freddy was such an evil steed. And I'm not sure if it's canon or not, but I was always fascinated with the little details after, the little connections to the stories. So, yeah, that's me. I used to love horror. I've watched a ton, but I've had a bit of a dry spell. The last horror film I watched was The Quiet Place Part 2, which I thought was all right.
I haven't seen Part 1 yet.
I'll tell you, I was just thinking when you were talking about cinema and that. I remember being in cinema and watching Seven. And you know the bit with where they keep the guy alive on the bed?
Oh my God, yeah.
I was just thinking about jump scares. That's the biggest jump scare I've ever experienced in the cinema, ever.
But all of us have worked at that cinema, and right, that is a scary building to be in when you're.
Do you mean this one?
There it is.
The old
that building, some parts of that building were terrifying to be in.
Yeah, they were.
Well, do you remember?
I'm going to talk about it later, really, cinema, because I had a few.
It was really spooky, beautiful building, really spooky, a bit Art Deco in places, and there was a whole subsection of it that were never used, was it? Behind the scenes where they used to have the old dressing rooms.
Yeah.
Jesus, I went with Dave Jones. Might have been you. Lumb,
we'll talk about it now.
Talk right now, because it's part of the scariest thing that you've seen. It's fine.
There you go.
You and Dave Jones convinced me one day to do something I didn't want to do and go round the back of the Odeon to go exploring with our cinema torches. And you guys had done it already, and you knew what were there. And you remember when you went upstairs and you went to go into a room, you opened the door, and the fucking floor were just rafters. There were no floor.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just the scary thing; it's the fact that you actually could have just walked into that room and fallen miles to the floor.
Yeah, all the old cinema. But I found a photo. It's so funny. That's obviously when it was the Odeon. But there's this picture there, look, when it were like a really older version of the
Yeah,
cinema.
Look at that.
Then
Morris
look at this
Paramount.
one.
Paramount.
Look at the inside.
Wow.
Whoa! Look
That
at
looks like the fucking
that.
Shining Hotel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it does.
that is the same layout, obviously, as when we used to work there. But look at how
But
weird
yeah,
it looks.
A
Yeah.
lot
It
more
does, yeah.
ornate and beautiful.
But they've
Slash
not changed the
very-
staircase or anything, have they? Just the obviously the upholstery is different. Weird though, isn't it? Seeing it like that.
Somebody decided to remove that beautiful, massive chandelier. That was a mistake. wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
But there were
chandelier-
loads of ghost stories and stuff in that building, and it's got such a history, you know.
Yeah.
Odeon 4, man hung himself
Odeon
in Odeon 4. If you
Yeah.
go in there drunk and alone on a night,
There was the rumor that when I first started there was that a singer once fell off the stage and broke her neck, and she was supposed to be the one who haunted the cinema, and loads of people had seen her on shifts. Like Odeon 1, the 1,000-seat screen, which you don't get anymore in cinemas, do you? You know,
No.
it's like 4 times the size of a regular big screen you go watch.
Unbelievable.
But cleaning that on your own, you did feel weird, didn't you? You know, you'll all back me up on this.
There were
Yeah, it
definitely
was terrifying.
times, right?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
There were times when you would look up and the credits will still be going, and you
Yeah.
think it was empty, and you glance up and there would be a silhouette sat down.
Yeah.
And when the lights came up, that silhouette was not there.
That happened loads. It's a shame Gemma's not in the comments tonight because she shouldn't sometimes come on, Gemma Wedgwood. But when she was cleaning Odeon 2 once, she was waiting for somebody sat in the seat, and she turned around, flicked the lights on, turned back, there was nobody there.
That's terrifying. I used to run, sometimes I'd find myself running out of the cinema when I was cleaned up at the end of the shift. Like, just to get to where everybody else was. It was awful.
I'm too scientific for this shit. It's always the same fucking people that see ghosts.
No, honestly, there were loads of people there.
No.
I'm not that much of a believer, but when stuff happened there, I was like, I can't really explain that.
Spooky. It was eerie, and also
The
it's
time-
such an old building with all them little, fire escapes that used to trap cold air, and you know what I mean, and little pockets of air and weirdness. Yeah,
I'll tell you what I never wanted to do: go close the doors to number 1. You know, down the staircase.
I hated those pirates.
That was the worst thing you had to do.
They were horrible.
Yeah, that was the worst thing.
No.
But the ones we once went
colder as you went down as well.
Yeah.
Like, it was
we once went to the fridge room though. I don't know who we're in on this shift, but somebody stacked the chairs all against the door of the fridge room, all like loads of them, like 60 chairs. And it took you about an hour to do it if you'd have been down there. It was so odd, and we couldn't get in. You tried the door, you couldn't get in. You had to go up the top way and go down. You know, weird stuff happened. Weird stuff.
Yeah,
but we used to play tricks on each other. We used to, you know, put fake dead bodies down there and things. So we're asking for trouble. By the time, Rich, we were once up the staircase. Do you remember somebody shouted? Somebody went, "Oi!" And there were nobody. There's no way anybody could have been in there.
It was horrible.
There's no way.
It was horrible.
It was where all the old dressing rooms used to be when it were a theatre.
To be honest with you, I started all these rumours about ghosts because I like to disappear down them for fire escapes and smoke a big joint when I was young.
You weren't in. Nobody was there.
Nobody ever came down there, so they thought it was a ghost. It was just me sitting there smoking.
When me and Dave Jones were under Odeon 2, though, and we heard a little girl laugh at us in a space where nobody was there, that was the one for me. And we ran to the staff room and went, "Who the fuck was that?" We went ballistic, and nobody ever told us.
Okay, but in the horror movie of my life, you and Dave Jones, when we worked at the Odeon, you're the two from Scream that I can't really take seriously. That nobody.
But Dave, if you ask Dave now, that is the honest truth. I know we mess about all the time.
Dave had an advantage over all of us because he was 100% sober all the time. He never went into work with a hangover. He didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He didn't do any of that. So he had an advantage. You took him serious when he spoke because he was the only sober person.
Right, I've just remembered something. And I think Nathan's the only person who was there out of all of us, but he was there with our mate Lee, who used to be my housemate. And I think, if I remember the story correct, they were at a house party, somebody's party. I think it was a girl called Becca, and upstairs there was a seance going on in a room, and one of these guys, I know.
No,
You tell the story,
I'll tell you the story. This is what happened. This is again back in the college days, so do forgive me for being a little bit. I'd gone upstairs with a girl at the party, and we were making out upstairs. and we
Cheeky.
heard. We
They
heard.
were getting heavy. They were getting heavy.
We heard them coming up the attic stairs,
Hey,
and we knew they were into all the spells and stuff. We knew they were gonna. I think they'd been talking about having a séance or something like that. And I swear to God, we hid behind a
I thought
really
it was you
light
and Lee
sofa
Lindley
bed.
whoid done it.
Might have been.
You and Lee Lindley were getting off with it.
We're getting heavy upstairs.
No, I was definitely because
Lee tells me the
we heard
story
them
that
come
it was
in
him and you.
They sat down and they started to do this séance, and I just left it for like until they were really into it and they were scaring themselves a bit. And I kicked the fucking sofa bed that I was behind, and it moved like, in my mind, it's about 6 foot across the room. Every one of them shit the pants,
Right, but
screaming the place down, and I poked my head up from behind the sofa like that.
But what happened was, as you did that, Dan, who was doing the séance, he had a fucking knife.
He had a massive fucking knife.
Sofa and it went
Yeah.
So Nathan went, oh.
Again, in my mind, like the movie, it went right between my legs like that and went, but it didn't do that. It bounced off the sofa bed and landed harmlessly on the floor. It's just a better story, if you know what I mean? And also, age changes things. I hope I wasn't making out with Lee Lindley behind the sofa, but it's also possible back in the
I like how we just use everybody's names on this show. We don't cover anything else. It's like they've got no say in whether they want to be on this show or not. Other people will be like fact checking and like, so is that right? Is that story? We're like, no, bug it. You know, we'll sort it out later.
Well, before I get on to the scariest thing that I've ever seen, because I think it's quite a long segment, we're talking about pranks, and there's a couple of pranks that I thought I'd show you that I found on the internet recently. On his housemate.
Hey,
I love shit like that.
Go on, Louis. No,
I'm gonna say sometimes these things. There's a load of stuff going around at the moment where they're putting like. Have you seen these ones where like somebody's in a hot tub and they put a load of snakes in and that, and they're like, "Here we go," and I'm always like, "Is this set up or not?" I'm a bit.
Yeah, a lot of them are set up. I don't think that one is, because I think the reaction was just brilliant. This one, now, this is probably the coolest prank I've ever seen, because when you're playing pranks on kids, right, you go so far. I think the furthest you can go, and I thought it overstepped the line a bit, was when they were making kids invisible. Do you remember there was that little phenomenon for a little while?
Oh yeah.
When they'd take a picture of somebody stood there with their arm around the kid, but the kid wasn't actually there. So then they'd all pretend that this kid was invisible, and they'd take a picture, and then they'd show the kid the picture of him.
Right.
And these kids would freak out because they'd think that they were invisible and nobody could see them. This goes way. Now, this is by the kid's mum, by the way.
1, 2, 3. Tommy sees you.
Yeah, that's not cool.
That's so out of order, isn't it?
It's like you think, oh, it's just Freddy Krueger. Then when the others come in, you're like,
look at Nat.
Oh my lord! They had me at Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Because I actually thought, why is there a chainsaw going? And then he comes in.
Jesus. I mean, poor kid.
That kid is going to be traumatized for his entire life.
Now, this next prank for me, it happened during lockdown, and there was a second part to it where, well, do you know what? I'm just going to show you. But this is about a 2-minute clip, and it.
Are you not going to take the camera up with you?
Yeah, I just need to get the lid off. Oh, it's really dark up there.
gonna get my drink. Oh wait, are you okay?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. I was worried then. I went to take a sip of my lemonade, but I was like, I don't want to be sipping Minute Maid while you fall. It looks like there's poo up there.
Fuck, my hand's actually really shaking. Okay, here we go.
What's up here? What was that? Rob? Rob, is this a joke? Rob?
That's director Rob
Wow.
Savage playing a joke on his girlfriend, Kate Herron, the director of Loki.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that came out last year, maybe the year before. And then so he obviously told her there was weird noise in his attic. And then he expanded it. I think it's a film. I think he's turned it into a film, and it's on Shudder. It's called Host. And basically, it ends up being a Zoom meeting with him and all his friends, where he's like, "This weird noise coming from my attic." And they're like, "Oh, we'll go and have a look." And they're all sort of sat around, they're doing the commentary with each other. And he's sort of going, "God, it's a bit scary up here." And then he does exactly the same thing. And they all freak out. And one of them's like, "You live closest to him. Go around and see if he's okay." And then it just stops on one of his mates who's like, "Wicked." And he's the one person who gets what he's done. It's brilliant. And he did it all live. So it was really good.
I think his foot deserves some sort of best foot Oscar.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant.
Supporting foot.
Which is everything in that. Yeah.
Actually, did any of you watch Host? Because that's a really scary. It's like literally the entire movie is just 6 little blocks on a Google Hangout or a Zoom meeting or whatever. And there's
I
a
haven't
seance.
actually seen the full film, no.
It's so good, honestly. This lady comes on and does a seance on the meeting, and they take the mick out of her a little bit, and like she goes, but she doesn't close down the seance properly, and then this demon is released, and so they watch their friends get picked off in this like the little boxes one by one. It's actually pretty spooky. I do recommend it. It's really good.
Brilliant. Well, he's the guy who wrote and directed it, Rob Savage.
We've got Big T Moore said about them parents on the other clip. We got Gary's here. Hello, Gary. Sorry.
Gary.
Question for Rich: if you were Dracula, who would be the first one you would bite?
Better be me, dickhead.
I would definitely go. No. I'd save you for last, because best till last, Webby. And I'd probably go for Nat, because her skin looks softer and more succulent. That's the creepiest thing I've ever said. Sorry, Nat. I'm so sorry.
Well, got witnesses, Nat. If you want to prosecute, we'll sort that out.
I'd probably save Lummy for like a rainy day or something like that.
Rich will be here next week due to charging charges.
Just watching What We Do in the Shadows, which is
Mandy's
all about
decided to turn up.
Hi, Mandy.
Hi, up, Mandy.
Yeah.
How's your head, Mandy? She said she had a day.
Thanks, Mandy. Love you.
Mandy.
What are you about to say, Webby?
I was just about to say, just finished watching What We Do in the Shadows, and towards the end of series 2, there's the bit where his old familiar comes back, who's now an old man, and he went away for 40 years. So he's not a vampire. He always got told he was going to be a vampire, but he goes back to be the thing. But it raises that question of, if a vampire bit you when you were like 99 years old, like, would you be a bit pissed off? Because you've got to stay in that decrepit body for the rest of your life.
Actually, it would be a lot easier to get like victims, wouldn't it? Because who's going to be scared of like this little, like frail-looking, harmless-looking old man? You could get loads and loads of necks, I reckon.
I'm pretty sure there's quite a lot of people walking around out there that are quite wary of dodgy old men.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
I was
actually,
always told to avoid them.
Stranger danger. Absolutely. Okay, well, the scariest thing that I ever saw growing up, or as an adult, still to this day, and I rewatched it last week. In 1992, the BBC produced a mockumentary, but effectively made by their drama department and Screen One, and it's the scariest 90 minutes of my life when Michael Parkinson, Sarah Green, Mike Smith, and Craig Charles decided to look at a house in Northolt in North London. Parky was brilliant. Fuck you. Parky was brilliant in that. But it's Ghostwatch UK, a show that was so good that it got banned for 10 years from the BBC. The controversy, the fallout from it was just incredible. The fact that there were several suicides after it because it affected people so badly. A guy with learning difficulties. Unfortunately, the heating system, the plumbing system in their house had made the same noise that the plumbing system that in the house that they were sort of doing the live show in made the same noise. So he killed himself and left a suicide note for his parents to say that if ghosts exist, then he'll be with them forever, looking after them. It's just it was so realistic. It was what the War of the Worlds did. You know, it was just an incredible, written by Stephen Volk. And it was just a great, based on the Enfield hauntings as well.
And I think the reason it was so good is that the people that were in it were presenters, they weren't actors. So
not only that, but they were kids' TV presenters, so that it really lent itself to. So basically, the premise of
oh, go on, sorry.
No, please go for it.
I was going to say, and then they did like the fake bit in the middle, so they had these really harmless presenters that we'd grown up with. You were watching them. And then, like, it looked like it was fake. Like, they caught the little girl making the noises, and you're like, oh. And then it kicks off. Oh,
it's incredible. But even it is how they dotted the I's and crossed the T's with it. So obviously they had Sarah Green and Mike Smith, who were a real life couple. So they had like this sort of this sort of marital sort of piss taking between them, like, you know, where they're winding each other up. He'd set Craig Charles to hide in a pantry, make noises, and Sarah Green was by the pantry, and Craig Charles burst out with a sort of scary mask on, and he was set up by Mike Smith to do it, and there was all that sort of stuff. There was the point halfway through the show where Parky just goes, sorry for those people who are waiting to watch the next program, but things have gotten so interesting here. We're just going to stay here for a while. The fact that the phone number they used was the BBC Crime Watch and Going Live number, and that when you phoned it up, there was so many, they actually had 5 operators that night, just in case people did phone the number to explain that it was a hoax, you know, in case anybody was scared. But so many people phoned up. All people got was the engaged dialing tone for it, so everybody was just convinced. They had a guy phone up to say that his sandwich had flown off the arm of the chair and it scared him to Joe Buggery, and Michael Parkinson be like, oh look, okay, got a few hoax calls. It was just brilliant.
And there's like
we've got a few hoax calls coming in.
Yeah, and he was like, he wasn't taking it seriously as bad as that impression.
Wow. Michael Parkinson. That's like Jamaican Michael Parkinson.
We've got a special guest. We got Billy Connolly coming right up.
Ghost of Billy Connolly.
Just a phenomenally well put together show. It said that it inspired the makers of the Blair Witch Project, which was Nathan's favorite pick, although they say that they watched it after they'd come up with the concept of their film. So,
course,
not really too sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I find
you wouldn't have Paranormal Activity if it wasn't for this program. It's just a phenomenally well put together. And I was 14 years old when I watched this. I was at my brother's house, and it was me, him, his wife at the time, and her little brother. And we were so scared, we all had to go to the toilet together because none of us would go to the toilet by ourselves. And then I was staying. Now, Nathan, I don't think Nat ever visited, but Nathan and Mummy did. I grew up in this place, right? And it's a beautiful place, but it was the scariest place I've ever lived in and been in my entire life. I left there when I was 21, and there were some parts of that hotel would still scare the living shit out of me. And one of the scariest things was, because there was lots of stories about the hotel, there was a story of a woman who'd killed herself. And the reason we found this out was because we had guests coming downstairs complaining that they woke up in the middle of the night and found a woman at the end of their bed crying with her head to one side. All these people who didn't know each other. And
Mama
we ended up
Gittins
doing
has
some.
been on the
It was
gin
my
again.
It was my mum on the gin, yeah, absolutely. Going, oh, got a really bad neck. And it was, and we found out this story about, in the history, there was a woman who killed herself in the hotel after her husband had died, and all these different sightings that people had seen, and then I'd seen something as a kid, and I remember mentioning it to my mum, and the scariest thing was just very sort of matter of factly, she went, "Oh, don't
Where's
worry,
the
she
gin?"
won't scare. She said, don't worry, she won't scare you." And I was just like, that's scarier than the thing I just fucking saw, because that makes me think you're seeing her all the time. So my mum worked down in the laundry, which was terrifying down there. So my mum and dad were away when this show was on, and I went back, and I used to sleep in their little apartment in the hotel, and we had loads of stray cats outside, and that was one of the things. The main character, the ghost in the show, was a guy called Pipes. Now, Pipes had been historically a child molester who drowned kids, who then was so full of remorse, killed himself, and he had these 12 cats that got to him and ate his face. And all these cats would start screaming and crying throughout the show as shit got bad.
Is that the backstory of it all?
Yeah, that was the backstory. He was
I haven't seen it since it was on.
I saw it last
Pretty
week.
dark for Parky.
It still stands up. It still stands up. Apart from the end, it still stands up.
Talk about timing. The ending's whack, man.
The ending is
so bad,
really
I've got
bad.
a full late 90s way of describing it. It's whack. The ending, where they all go
The
down
ending,
in
it ends with a
staircase.
cyclone coming through the studio. Everyone disappearing. Parky
Oh,
walking
yeah.
around, going, "Oh, I can see the auto cue. Fee, fatty, form. I can smell." And he starts getting possessed, walking around the studio. That wasn't great. The very ending.
I think the scariest bit of the end was when Sarah Green disappeared under the stairs and never came out.
Do you know what the cupboard is called under this? So basically, one of the little girls. So that was
Broom closet.
No, yeah, Andy Peters is Mr. Pipes. No, so there was a cupboard under the stairs that they had boarded up because the little girl had heard some banging in there, looked through the crack, and had seen Mr. Pipes looking back out of her. And do you know what? Can you remember what they referred to the cupboard as throughout the whole show?
No.
It's called the glory hole.
Oh, Lord.
It's called the fucking glory hole. How the hell did they get away with that?
Well, it is called Mr. Pipes.
But it's absolutely brilliant. And while all the shit's going off inside the house, it cuts to Craig Charles outside, and some kids, like these Halloween kids, keep bothering him, and he starts getting all like Scouser scally with them and like telling them to piss off and stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, it's nice and peaceful out here." And inside, everything's gone nuts. And then they cut back to the studio, and they're watching them all playing these games. And they're like, "Okay, no, everything's calmed down in there now." And then suddenly the paranormal expert is like, "Wait, no, that picture's on the wall. That picture had fallen and broken before. Mr. Pipes has gotten into the TV network," and that's where it started going south.
Yeah.
Like not as good.
Yeah,
But it was such
that's
a
the bit. That's the bit that isolates your morons from your people who are just watching television. Do you know what I mean? That's the bit where you go, okay, so it is just thank God it's just a television program. I don't need to call a BBC, and I don't need to kill myself.
But you've got to bear in mind this is like 80 minutes into the show. So by this point,
the clever thing about the whole thing was the timing of things. There's the fact that they did it live. And
It wasn't live though. What it were all pre-recorded.
No, it was all pre-recorded a couple of months before.
Live.
Yeah,
but there was a bit where they got to one of the kids' bedrooms and the camera scans right round the bedroom.
I was about to
like
mention
that, and it goes back. And as it goes back, you see the fucking figure in the corner. That was scary.
You see,
that's the bit of
right? But then what they do, which is brilliant, is they go, right, sorry, can we come back? Because somebody phones in and says, sorry, I saw a figure in the window. I might be mistaken. I'm not normally into this sort of thing. And there's all these very apologetic British people phoning in and giving their experiences of what they've seen. People's clocks stopping and their dogs howling and all this sort of stuff. And so the lady the expert, paranormal expert in the studio is like, can we go back and look at that footage? And they come around and they're going, no, there's nothing there. and it's a different set of footage they're showing without the figure in, and then they explain what the figure might. So they're constantly tugging and pulling away at you as an audience. It's phenomenal. And then the writer and the producer got pulled into a BBC show called Bite Back a few months later, which is a talk show where the audience basically has a go at you, effectively. It's like that thing we saw with the Pythons, after Life of Brian. It's one of those sorts of situations. And it's all these people in the audience just berating them, going, I was watching this with my children. Well, I wasn't watching. The mother-in-law was watching this with the children while we were in the other room watching something else. And then one of my kids, just 20 minutes in, just ran into the hallway and threw up 3 times uncontrollably. I had to sleep in our bed for 2 nights afterwards. And it's just all these people giving their honest opinions on how the show affected them afterwards. It's just a phenomenal piece of writing.
I've never seen anything like it since, ever.
Yeah, you never did finish that story, Rich. What happened?
It's true.
Fucking hell, Big D. That is spot on the mustard.
It's absolutely brilliant. Nah, I don't give a shit. Go to what you can.
Then we had to sleep with each other that night to share bodily warmth because we were all too cold.
No, my brother drove me back to the hotel at night. I didn't even stay with them. I went to stay at the
That's
hotel.
how much it affected you. His brother gave a shit about you for a bit. That's pretty good. You know what I mean? You had to be scared out of
One your sock drawer haunted as well, Rich.
No.
Yeah, my socks are scared stiff.
They moved on their own, the socks.
I watched this at my best friend's house at the time, and at the point where I realised it was okay, I'm safe now. I know it's made up because Parky's trying to act and there's lighting going on and glory holes and shit that's not quite. I'm pretty convinced that this is just bullshit. At that point, he was in tears, and I was just like, this friendship ain't gonna last, man. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to grow the fuck up. You're 2 years older than me. How come you're crying?
But then when he went back to his friend's house, the house wasn't there.
No, I remember going to school the next day and everybody freaking out about it.
Whoa.
Yeah, man, it was the talk of the town for a bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal. But it was, but for the BBC to say that we're not going to show this, like have a policy, it's not going to be shown for the next 10 years, and it's still not to be shown. It was 10 years before it was released on DVD. It's only been shown in a handful of countries on terrestrial TV since. I mean, to be honest, I think now it's something that should be celebrated and should be shown at Halloween because it's such a brilliant piece.
I think the BBC would have actually had the balls to stick to their convictions and show something like this every fucking week and just make people deal with it. I'd have a lot more respect for the BBC rather than pandering and say, well, no, all we can do now is Michael McIntyre's The Wheel and Strictly Come Dancing. We can't possibly do anything more interesting than that. So
Hey, I love a bit of Strictly.
But it was just it was a wonderful hoax, and it's the best thing I've ever seen.
But you noticed how beautiful Nat looks tonight. I just want to throw that out there.
Oh
no,
hauntingly beautiful.
You creep, Webb. Hey, Rich is already on a warning. Don't you start?
Thank you, Webby. I love you too.
It's already been cancelled.
It was one of those things like War of the Worlds that it really did sort of.
That's me on the morning.
It had its moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They need to do stuff like this again and regularly prank the country. If only COVID had been a massive prank. Perfect example right there. Just pranking us.
Maybe it was.
Well, actually, they did do another prank about 20 years before, and I think it was Panorama. They did a whole panorama about Italian farmers picking spaghetti.
Yeah.
And it was a whole documentary they did, and it's all these women picking spaghetti out of trees. This whole panorama investigation is absolutely brilliant.
We got Gary said, I'm remaking it chapter 1, the scene where Georgie looks in the sewer because he lost his boat. Who pops up? Not Pennywise, but Jack Black, no costumes, normal wardrobe. Would you all watch it? Jack Black?
Jack Black, probably.
Jack Black,
But then it's changed. Hang on. You know, no Jack Black, just put Danny DeVito in the sewer.
What costume's Danny DeVito wearing, Gary? What costume is he wearing?
Georgie? I'd like to see Danny DeVito as Georgie.
Did you know what? I'm just imagining James Corden being there in the sewer, just being like, Hi, Georgie. How are you? Ah! Terrifying.
God, I'd flood the sewer.
Just piss in it.
I'd get the whole neighbourhood to piss in it just to make sure.
Everybody flush at the same time.
Yeah, Cordon's going down
the sewer again.
Have we got any other comments, Lummy, about the scariest things people have seen?
No, they were just all listening to your story about.
Can I just ask who amongst us has seen Dead Set? Do you remember
Dead Set is brilliant. That's the Charlie Brooker zombie
good.
Big Brother thing.
Yeah,
it's gonna be wearing his penguin costume.
Webby, you've got a part in this.
I like it.
Hey,
Webby, you look really good in a yellow raincoat.
Do you know what? If anybody could do that role, just in Webb, it'd be you. I've always said you're a good actor.
Bill, but the clown came, Bill. There you go.
I'll make you a little origami boat, Webby, and I'll dip it in wax, and you're sailing it in the.
I think Webb was the best actor out of us lot at college, wasn't he? Really?
Webb was easily the best actor out of all of us at college.
Yeah, we don't mind saying that.
What went wrong, Webby?
He's just not doing it now. But
you want a strong ear for actors, I think.
Nobody around him inspired him with confidence to keep going. So we're all shit.
My dad saying to me when I got the lead in The Taming of the Shrew, and he said to me one day, I can't remember his exact words, but he was sort of saying, "Wow, not bad for a kid from Beeston who got shit results in his GCSEs to go get the lead role in Shakespeare at Park Lane." You know, I was like, "That's it, I peaked." That's it.
Peaked too early. But Nat, you want to talk about Dead Set?
Yeah. Oh my God. Brilliant. They don't show it enough at Halloween. It's like it sprung out of the zombie genre that was like reignited not too long ago, and is about horrible. So essentially, the idea is, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is a Big Brother's happening. It's an eviction night, so there's all the crowds there. The person who's getting evicted comes out, and then a fight starts in the crowd. It turns out it's the zombie apocalypse, but the people in the house, because they're locked in and they don't have any outside interference at all, have no idea the zombie apocalypse is happening. So half of it focuses on them, and part of it focuses on a runner for the show who is essentially trying to get to safety. Davina McCall's in it. She becomes a zombie briefly. She's brilliant. It's really, really good. And then when the inhabitants of the Big Brother house and don't get their food and they realize something's going on, they get on the roof, and like London has been devastated, and then the zombies find out that they're there. It's so good.
It's a bit of a precursor to Black Mirror as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Familiar themes, you know.
I think like a comment on consumerism and capitalism and
but zombie films are traditionally, that's why they're generally set in shopping malls and things like that. That was Romero's way of looking at it. It was absolutely a comment on consumerism and TV pop culture. Yeah,
just like see what type. I think this sort of determines what sort of a person somebody is. Do you prefer a fast zombie or a slow zombie?
28 days later, rage zombie or
all right, fast ones. I'm going to say I'll answer that for you now.
Go on.
Fast ones are scarier, but slow ones are better.
Yeah, I agree. You know I would rather face off against a slow zombie than a fast zombie.
Well, of course you would.
Yeah,
but on a TV show, I'd probably rather watch a fast zombie in some ways.
But that's
like
what
28 days later.
In my opinion, that's what these horror films are there. It's to train you for the oncoming apocalypse. To see, because we're all sitting there going, "No, why didn't you pick up the fucking?" I tell you what, what's the one that we just watched, Rich? The Black Summer.
Black Summer.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Have
you seen it, Nat?
No.
Nat, have you seen Black Summer? Holy shit, Nat.
I'm going to put it on my list.
On Netflix. It's amazing.
It kicks the shit out of Walking Dead. It makes it look like
wonderful.
Ridiculous.
And in the second series, it jumps up in production value because they've obviously got a bigger budget. It's
one of those series where because it's the early onset zombie apocalypse, they're just slowly figuring out what to do about these things. So it starts on the onset of the outbreak. It's done in such a plausible way. Like if it happened and there was an event, you would panic, you would do this. And there's a bit where there's a zombie running after a guy and he's running through a firehouse and you think, you pick up the axe, pick up the fucking do this. And he keeps missing it all. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
And you can't.
And they don't know about head kills, do they?
Yeah, they don't know that. If they get a gun with 20 bullets or whatever in it, they're shooting it, but they're not shooting them they're not severing the spine. They're not shooting them in the head. So the thing just keeps coming, and it takes them a little while to figure out how to do it. But in the second series, there's rules. Do you know what I mean? It's really well put together. Really, really.
I'll watch it. It's on my list. I just put it on my list.
Really, it's brilliant. You'll really like it now.
I love the
Do we class the zombie genre as being part of the horror genre? Because the horror genre actually, it feels like it's quite a small genre, but actually it is quite big when you look at.
Yeah,
I do. Have you seen Eli Roth's History of Horror series?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh my god! Honestly, there's 2 seasons of it now, and he splits it into zombies, slasher, demons, ghosts, Chris Lums. And
what's this on?
It's on Amazon Prime at the moment, or Amazon at the moment. Okay. Eli Roth, History of Horror. But essentially, they interview people like Stephen King, Rob Zombie, people like that, and they talk about the best movies from that genre, from the start of the genre to the modern day. Really, really good. Highly recommend. Yeah.
See, Mark Gatiss did a really similar series, but it was more about like.
Guys, that face is. Guys, sorry, Nate. Don't mean to. That can you?
No, what's up?
That face. That's.
Will you please stop picking on Lummy? It's his face. You can't help it. It's just
right,
Lummy.
You're telling me that you can't see that?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Can you see a scary white face?
Do you know when William Shatner found out that they used his mask for Halloween? He was like, really? Like, seriously? Nobody fucking told me about that. He only found out recently that it's supposed to be him.
Really? I didn't know that.
And if you watch that Movies That Made Us, they're on about how they made that mask and they cut the eye holes out a little bit more to give him a wide, to make it a little bit different because it looked too much like a William Shatner.
So we've talked about the scariest things that we've seen on TV and on the big screen. And Webby, you wanted to talk about some of the scary things.
No. Before we came onto this show, I was thinking, right, what can we talk about that's interesting about horror movies? So I did a little delve into like tragedies that happened on movie sets that were horrors, and I just thought this is fucking dark. It's too depressing. So I've completely changed direction and decided instead that I'd like to bring up with you guys movies that are just as fucking funny as they are scary, but deliberately so. So kind of like B movies. I'm thinking of things like Tremors with Kevin Bacon, which is just gloriously funny, really over the top, gory as hell, totally silly. Slither. I don't know if you've ever seen Slither with Nathan Fillion. That's disgusting and really funny. And that's about little slugs that get inside you and it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
There you go.
Slither. It's great. It's really, really fun. Because of Nathan Fillion, and he plays the sheriff in the town.
Love Nathan Fillion. He's brilliant.
Fucking hilarious in it, man. He's really.
Oh, hang on. We've got Bulletproof Blouse. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Scariest TV thing. Series 1 episode of Spooky.
Oh my god, you are absolutely right. That is terrifying. That's the one where I think they're going after the alt-right group, the massive racist group that's like politicians working with them, and he infiltrates the gang, and they end up in a fucking restaurant where he ends up dunking someone's face in a fat fryer, and it's horrific. It's really graphic,
like a poppadom.
It's really, exactly. It looked really, and in answer to the cannibalism, I would have gone for that. If I had dunk one of your faces in a fat fryer, I think that would make you more appetizing. But
apparently, if you work at McDonald's, you get a star on your badge for not burning yourself in the deep fat fryer.
Shut up! Really?
True.
Lummy, really?
I can't stop thinking of the cornballer from Arrested Development, but I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I fancy some chips as well. Oh, I think it's Big Mac Day today. You get a Big Mac for 99p. There you go.
He told us 3 hours before it bloody shut.
I forgot. I don't go to McDonald's anymore. I don't go to McDonald's anymore.
Oh, it's very
I
healthy
had to go there
now.
with my boy the other day, and it was disgusting.
So go on then, Webby. What
Oh
were you
yeah,
talking
so
about?
we've got on my list. I'd wondered what you guys thought about it. Can you guys think of any films that aren't on my list, which I'll give you in a second, that you found that were just beautifully funny as well as a little bit scary? So I've got Slither, Lake Placid with Betty
Hang on.
White.
Wait, let me get my images up for you. There you go.
Look at that cast. That's a great cast for a cheesy little film. Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, Oliver Platt.
Hey, do you know what that's based on? A real thing that happened to these kids in Australia. Do you know about this?
Yeah, I'll let you tell it about it.
Basically, I watched that. Only reason I know is because I watched the thing the other day. This guy does a channel and it were on there. Basically, these 3 kids were swimming in Australia in this bit. Well, I can't remember the area, what it's called, the area, but apparently the water's like black. You can't see what's in it, basically. And one of the lads fell in the water. And the other 2 jumped in to try and get him. They all caught up with him. They were all swimming down, and then they wanted to grab onto these like mangrove roots to pull themselves out of the water. One of them got taken under. They were like, "What the hell's pulled this guy under?" They got out and climbed a tree. Turns out this giant alligator or crocodile, whatever it was. I can't remember whether alligator or crocodile.
Australia, it's crocodile in Australia.
Crocodile, yeah. So this crocodile was basically waiting for these 2 lads to fall out of this tree, and it was circling and just staring at them. It was like, I watched the thing yesterday about it, like, oh my God. And then at one point, one of the lads fell out of the tree. He tried to climb higher. The branch snapped, he fell in, and he managed to get back out before this thing got him. And then
Jaws thing again, isn't it? Oh.
Yeah, it was like
it sounds like a much scarier film than Lake Placid, which has got some great Jaws type moments with the camera tracking the crocodile under the water. But the funniest thing is the little old lady Betty White, who lives at the side of the lake. They go and ask her a bunch of questions at the beginning of the film. She's like, I haven't seen nothing. There's nothing to worry about here. But then at the end of the film, you discover that she's feeding this fucking ginormous alligators. I think it's an alligator in Lake Placid.
Whoa.
But yeah, so I've got Lake Placid, Mars Attacks. I'm thinking B movies, horror movies, comedies sort of thing. A bit of Mars Attacks. I mean, you can't get sillier than a film where yodeling kills the monster. It's absolutely crazy.
Do you class Mars Attacks as a horror though?
I don't really.
No, but that's what I mean. It's based on that B movie ethos. That's where Mars Attacks comes from, doesn't it? From the original Top Trading.
Yeah.
Released in the 50s and 60s, all based around cheesy horror movies and B movies. But to me, these films have a lot in common with those. So basically, Lake Placid is a giant alligator, but in them, it's a giant ant. You know what I mean? It's the same sort of thing, just done 30 or 40 years later. I've got Arachnophobia, which I don't know if you guys remember that.
I was going to say Arachnophobia was a brilliant.
This film is, especially if you're scared of spiders, is terrifying, and it's only a PG. It's a PG. It's the one with John Goodman where he shows up.
John Goodman, yeah, of course,
yeah. I didn't like this film because of the spiders. I was like, no,
pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't like them.
I'm not a massive fan of them either. And then I've got Tremors, which I've already talked about, Zombieland, which is a great example of a funny zombie movie. You know, Zombieland 2, a bit iffy, but the first one was good. And Evil Dead, which the first one isn't supposed to be funny, but it was. And it was that funny that the next one they brought out, they deliberately tried to make it funnier.
Yeah.
So by the third,
and then they had the series as well, didn't they? Obviously.
Yeah, by the third film, that medieval, where he goes back in time to the medieval ages and has to fight zombies. It's pure comedy, and it's really fucking funny. Yeah, I agree.
It's a brilliant film. It's a really good film. I kind of like to watch it again, actually.
Does anybody else think of any? Can anybody else think of any films that I might have obviously missed tons of them? But anybody got any?
Did you mention Tremors? You said Tremors earlier.
Tremors,
I've got two for you.
Got launched.
Frighteners.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Oh, I remember Frighteners.
Yeah. Peter Jackson's foray into Hollywood.
It's a weird one, The Frighteners, as well, because it starts off like a comedy, but then it gets really dark, and there's not much comedy in the back end of it. It goes quite, sinister, but it's pretty well done.
And, for an early film as well, the ghost effects in that film are great, man. Yeah. I think it was the way it worked, wasn't it? They did a really good job.
Yeah, I quite I quite like the idea of it as well, but I don't think the idea's done well enough in it, if you know what I mean. The idea of being a con man with 3 ghosts in tow, and they get to. I think there's another film in there. You know.
I think you're right. They could have done a sequel. Michael J. Fox is great in this one.
Yeah. The best thing about that film is the outtakes where he keeps calling the main character Doc. Because of Back to the Future, and he says he just kept thinking of Back to the Future while they were making it. Really odd. The judge is called Judge Innie the Ghost. He keeps calling him Doc. So he keeps pulling all the takes by going, hey, Doc.
It's not like a B movie sort of the whole thing, but there's a scene in Psycho that I think is brilliant, and it's this quite suspenseful moment where she just checks into the hotel, she's in the room, she's getting ready, she goes to the bathroom. And it's quite long-winded, but it's all very subtle. All the tiny details getting ready, and then she goes to sit down on the toilet, and then jumps up, and then you're like, somebody stabbed her up from the. And she has the toilet seat down, and it's Jaws, it's rats. Yeah, exactly. And she just hasn't put the toilet seat down before, and it's just this really lovely, but really funny moment. It's really good.
Go on. What was your other one, Lumb?
The Burbs.
Oh yeah,
exactly what I'm talking about. That's a great show.
Depending on what you watch, what age you are when you watch these movies, they're way scarier than. So the last time I watched The Burbs, I didn't see it as a comedy, but there was I didn't see it as a horror, but there was definitely a time when it first came out when I was a kid when I couldn't tell. That's the worst thing. You don't know if you're comfortable with it because are they going to make me laugh or am I going to actually?
I didn't watch the Lummy. I think didn't we do a prequel with The Burbs?
Yeah.
So that was the first time I'd seen The Burbs, and for that exact reason, Nathan. When I was a kid, I saw the start of it, and it scared me too much, and I was like, "No, I'm watching this."
Were you guys ever scared of Gremlins by the same director?
No.
Not really. No. The scariest bit in Gremlins is the dark-ass story she tells in the middle about the dad dying.
That's really dark.
Really takes you out of the movie, dark. And then they kind of go, anyway, here's the rest of the film. You know what I mean? It's just really weird. It's a good story, though. It's a great little idea.
Odd choice as well, though, in a kids' movie to say there's no Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he didn't pick up on it, but the other day, me and the boy got the bus to town, and there was a little old Irish man at the front of the bus who we just got talking, and he started telling us about his kids when he was young and his kids and stuff. And he said, and of course, I told him there was no. I can't do the accent. That's awful. I told him there was and I'm like, Robin was sat right there. I'm like, are you going to be the one to tell my 4-year-old boy there's no frigging Santa Claus? I'm building up to that, mate. Give me a break. So anyway.
That's my job to ruin my kids' happiness.
Yeah, exactly. You're taking that away from it. No, he didn't pick up on it, luckily.
Meanwhile, what Webby doesn't realise is Robin sat with an iPad in his bedroom watching this show now, and this is how he's found out.
I miss Daddy. Let's just watch this show. No, luckily he doesn't listen, so it's all right. Just like me.
Yeah, luckily he hates us all. It's fine.
Got bulletproof. I was said. Anyone had any really scary video games played?
Yes.
The bit in Max Payne with the crying babies, always with the crying babies, where you're walking when he's hallucinating. You got to walk along that like bloodline. It's terrifying. That is horrible.
Two games for me that fucking nailed it as a solo playing game that you're playing on your own. The first original Dead Space. It's not just terrifying. So what's really scary about that is they're on a ship in space that's got like monstrous demonic aliens on it. But the sound they make when they're screaming at you is the same as something as a scalpel being dropped onto a operating room theater floor, right? So if you walk through the surgery in this ship and knock a tray off, it sounds like the fucking monster that's after you. You're constantly looking around. The lights are always going on. Really, really scary. And the other one, shortly after that, I played Alien Isolation. And that is a perfect horror game. Because if you remember the thing about aliens that lost people was they're less scary when there's multiple aliens. In the first movie, there's one alien and it's chasing them down. And you are playing that part. There's one alien. And it just keeps chasing you. If you die... If you make a sound, it'll come and get you. So you're constantly hiding in closets and hiding and trying to get away. But if you breathe too loudly, it'll hear you, rip the door off the closet and eat you. And then you've got to go back in and find a way not to get eaten just by one fucking alien chasing you around the ship. Really clever. Proper scary.
Bob said evening nutters again, even though he said it earlier. Hello, Bob. We all said hello earlier.
We said hello.
Webby, did you play Fallout 3, Webby? You did, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Dunwich building in Fallout 3.
Yeah, it's
creepy. This really big building, really creepy. And there's loads of feral ghouls in there that are just asleep. But if you disturb them, then they'll get up quietly and just come and attack you. And that's full of jump scares. And also the Call of Duty World War II, where they introduced those jump scares into it with zombies that would just kind of jump out at you. There's really good jump scares in that. It's great. Yeah, computer games are great for that.
What were the?
I mean, those are just
Silent Hill as well.
Playing. Yeah, I never played any of those. I don't necessarily like horror games, but those two that I played, they were enough. They were so scary. The only way through it was to complete them and make sure you were okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
BioShock. Did you play BioShock where you went around and there were them?
That was creepy. Yeah.
I've got it, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, they're a bit. First two, the other one were outdoors, wasn't it?
Yeah.
First two though, it's a bit weird, a bit freaky.
What's the scariest thing that's happened to you in real life that you can't explain? Like because that thing is where your mind plays imagination, all your imagination play tricks on you. That thing where you're walking home at night, but you're not. You can be being followed, but you're not being followed. Or those things.
I can tell you a story, and I'll make it brief, but I genuinely promise you it scared the crap out of me. So
embellish it like Rich does with this.
Okay, I'll embellish.
Didn't do any embellishments on mine.
So actually, two things happened, right, that I can't explain. One of them was about a dog, which is, I won't tell you that one. But this one, so I used to work in, as you know, I work for Lush, but I used to work in the old Leeds shop, which had the spa downstairs.
Oh, I know this story. Is this?
It's so creepy. Everyone said the spa was haunted. I don't really particularly believe in ghosts. At the end of every working day, somebody had to go downstairs, blow out all the candles, turn out all the lights. There were no windows down there. And when you got to the bottom of the spa stairs and you turned to face essentially the kitchen area, to your left was the fire door and the toilet, and to your right was a dead-end corridor with 3 treatment rooms off of it. So I went to each treatment room, turned out all the lights, turned off all the beds, blew out all the candles, closed all their doors, and then I was stood in the kitchen with the dead-end corridor on my right and the fire door on my left, turning off the air conditioning, and I shit you not, somebody said, Natalie, but they said it like Natalie, like that. I froze, and I ran to the fire door, and I thought, somebody's got to be outside. Even though it had come from my right, from the bottom of the dead-end corridor, which was now in darkness. I checked the fire escape. There was nobody outside in the alleyway. There was nobody in the loo. I'd already checked all 3 rooms, so I know there was nobody in there. We were closed, so nobody could have got down there. There was nobody under the table. I ran up the stairs and said to the person who was mopping the shop, "Oh my God, what did you do that for?" I'm like, I'd crapped myself. It wasn't her. It didn't actually sound like a woman, but we'd had quite a few moments where somebody had said that at the spa. We had a lady who was in the middle of a treatment, and the spa therapist said a part of the treatment she'd like jumped during the massage, and at the end she'd asked for her money back because she said that she hadn't expected somebody to shout in her ear, like one of the lines of the music that was playing. Somebody shouted it in her ear and she jumped, and we had to give her her money back. And they used to say things like all the time, but I swear to you, a man's voice from the bottom of a dark and dead-end corridor shouted my name, and I can't explain it from that day to this. And I
do
never
the voice again.
It was like, it was really
that's Lummy doing his Parky impression.
Yeah, I was going to say. So it was definitely a Yorkshire ghost then.
It was horrible. But
right, well, do you know
I don't like that. No.
On the Leeds City Centre, and probably every city centre, there's a load under all the arcade and everything, and all them areas. There's tunnels underneath all that link together under the city, and you can get to them through access doors all under. Because we once did an art show down at the Grand Arcade. We went downstairs, and under there we had a game of football because it was just all like a massive clearing. Every shop links.
Well, one of this Lush shop, the old Lush shop, so not where it is now, but when it was on Commercial Street, it had a door that they had bricked up that was in the last spa room at the bottom of that corridor that led into those tunnels. And they genuinely bricked it up to create the treatment room, so you could access those tunnels from our basement before they created the spa. True story. Can't explain it. Don't believe in ghosts. I don't know what happened, but genuinely did happen to me. Horrible.
Man.
Yeah.
Has anybody else
When I
got
was at the
any?
hotel, well, when I was at the hotel, we used to experience shit all the time. And then there was just one point when the hotel had been when we first took it over, it was just an absolute wreck. And like over the sort of 15 years of living there, they kind of did it all up. And once it was all done up, we stopped seeing or hearing anything. And I've never experienced anything since. So as an adult, we were talking about this the other night, Nathan and I were, and I was, as an adult, suddenly it's made me doubt whether those things were real when I was younger. Because, you know, you've seen a picture of the hotel. It's a big, beautiful, inspiring place that will let a kid's imagination wander. So I've never experienced anything since. But then the other night, I'm lying in bed in my new flat here, and I'm just lying there. And just as I was drifting off to sleep, I sleep on the left-hand side of the bed. My girlfriend sleeps on the right-hand side. Next to me is the wardrobe, and I'm just lying there in bed, and I felt somebody blow in my left ear, and I just went, "What the fuck was that?" And Sylvia was like, and she stayed asleep, and I had to get up, turn the light on, and have a look around because I was just like, something definitely just blew in my ear then, and that was pretty horrible.
That's weird, man.
Ghostly blowjob.
Ghostly ear job. Yeah. What about you, Webby? Have you experienced anything?
Yeah, loads of shit. But I think more than anything, it's just coincidental rather than a concrete proof that ghosts and spirits exist. Because the way I see it is my last spooky encounter was probably at the Odeon. Before that was probably about 4 or 5 years before that, when coincidentally I started reading a lot of Stephen King, watching a lot of horror movies, and my mind was very fertile. Now, in the 30 or so years that has preceded that, I haven't seen a single fucking ghost, so I'm assuming I was just a dumbass kid. You know what I mean? However, there are still things that I can't explain, and I don't want to explain in a way. I kind of hope that, I mean, believe me, nobody would shit themselves more than me if a ghost suddenly popped up.
Right, do you know what? Your flat scares me.
But nobody would cack themselves more than me if it just suddenly happened, because I'm so skeptical about it. But in a way, I think being skeptical is that I want some concrete proof. I'm happy to believe, but I can't believe because it's not obvious to me. It's not there in front of me. You know what I mean? But there are still things that creep me out. Definitely.
When I used to live at your flat, there were sometimes it was
just starting to think that you're a massive scaredy cat.
No. Until Robin was born.
You don't know what you're looking at.
Brilliant. When Robin was born, that all kind of disappeared in your flat. But I used to feel really, really uptight there sometimes. What about you, Luke? Is there anything that you've seen that you?
I'm just getting some famous ghost photos for us.
Can I just tell you one thing that does creep me out, which I researched earlier? I was looking for something particular, and it's a 2-line horror story that you guys might know, but it's worth reading out. And I've got the original right in front of me, right? And it goes like this. I begin tucking him into bed, and he tells me, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." I look underneath for his amusement, and I see him, another him, under the bed, staring back at me, quivering and whispering, "Daddy, there's somebody on my bed."
Brilliant.
That's brilliant. That's a 2-line.
That's like the story. Yeah, that's like the story of the blind lady, like the guard dog. The guide dog used to lick her hand.
I like that. I was going to tell the dog story. Oh God, that Joe told me that one earlier about it's not only dogs that lick or something, is it?
Yeah. Just dogs that lick hands. And then it was
almost scary.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the wording of that at the end is really weird. And also the one where they break down the mental asylum, and then suddenly you hear the wife or the husband goes out to see what's going on, and then you hear this banging on the roof. And when he looks out, it's an escaped lunatic from the mental asylum bouncing a husband's head on the roof of the car. Heads probably don't bounce very well, I would imagine.
Famous origin urban myths ever. There's another one, Rich. I love this one. My mum told me it when I was a kid. She was a bad mum. I'm kidding. She said, the story, it's probably got origins in every culture and every different place. But for this version of events, it's set sort of around the Pennines. And it's about a lady driving home quite late at night. across the Pennines. It's dark. She sees ahead of her on the road a bundle, something on the road. So she stops the car quite near to it, gets out of the car, goes over to this bundle and sees it's a plastic baby doll wrapped in a blanket. She thinks that's a bit weird. So she throws it to the side of the road and goes to get back in her car. When she gets back in her car and starts the engine, all of a sudden right behind her is a car with its lights full beam, beeping and like flashing the lights. She thinks, well, it's clearly somebody trying to rape me or something. So she hightails it home. This car follows her all the way home. She manages to make it to a driveway, get out of the car and inside her house. But this car pulls up right behind her car with the lights still full beam. And she's thinking something's not right. So she calls the police. The police show up. They go to the car and there's a man in the car. And he says, when you got out of the car on the moors, I saw somebody get in your back seat. So I was following you with my lights on because I didn't want something to happen to you and I didn't want this guy to get you and I didn't want him to get out of the car and come into your house. So I just sat there and waited. I always thought that was pretty creepy and it also sounds like it could be fucking true, you know what I mean?
So then what's the next
Scene
part?
for a
What did the
horror
police
story.
do? Did the
They
police go and
arrested
open
the
the
man in the
back
back
door?
of the seat. Yeah, they went and
There
opened
was a
the
guy
back
there,
seat. There was
okay.
a man lying in the back seat.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nat, can you tell us the story about your friend, or is that off limits?
Oh, the demon hand.
Yeah, that's
Oh
brilliant.
my god. Yeah.
Have you got the photo?
I've got the photo.
Can you show us it?
I'm assuming I can't. Let me just find the photo. So I have a friend who had a photo taken of her. It's quite a blurry one because she's it's her birthday party. It's at her house, and it looks like there's a hand coming around her waist, and it doesn't look like an earthly hand. So I'm just going to find it while you all just talk amongst yourselves for a second.
I've got some ghost photos for us in a minute as well. I found.
No, go on, we're waiting for Nat's photo.
All right. So these are like I typed famous ghost photos.
I've seen that before.
Basically.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think these are? What do you think of these?
That looks
Anybody's
a bit too
guess.
fake for me.
I
Yeah,
mean-
that looks really fake.
There's more that I don't know.
It's when they're taken, isn't it?
But there's a scientific reason for it. Something in the development process and the smearing of the, you know.
What about that
This
one?
creeps me out. This creeps me out
Yeah.
because apparently the family didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I've read about that one. That's
Look
horrible.
how the photo's framed though on that one. They've left a gap for it.
Yeah.
Well, look at something else as well. His head's so close to that flame. That's dangerous. Can ghosts combust?
Driving Miss Daisy.
Ghost driver. Next.
I can't really see that one.
It's there. With, there's a
On
person
the-
sat with
driving.
And is there?
Yeah, it's next
Yes.
one. See your
Can't
shirt.
see shit.
Like a
Can you
Oh,
see the white shirt?
I can see a white blob.
That's
Looks
the
like a
white
reflection
shirt.
of the sunlight. It's not. It's the reflection of the sunlight on the
No,
fucking
you can see his
windscreen.
head. There's a head as well.
I can't see a head.
And
There's a
also,
white
there's
wiper.
Nathan, there's a
Green
gap
wiper.
between the edge of the windscreen and where she's holding.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Concrete proof.
Few more. His face behind other.
I mean,
Yeah, I've read about
that,
this.
that
Haven't-
could
haven't
really
he
just
died?
genuinely be a face
Bad
behind.
composition.
They'd
Oh
said
my
that he
God.
died like 2 days before in a mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
I printed a photo like that at Photo Express and it just appeared, I'd say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but these don't forget how old these photos are. They're like there's no camera trickery in them days when they were making this.
Yeah,
stuff.
well, you say that, but then we had the little fairies, didn't we? That
Yeah.
was a massive.
Look at that
To
one.
me, that looks like a guy in the back seat with glasses on, and again the reflection.
That's his mother.
coming off his-
I cannot see this one. Oh shit! Yes, I
behind
can.
him, yeah.
That
that's his
is.
mother.
That's just somebody in the back seat, right?
Oh come on!
Glasses on. That's not a ghost.
Is
That's
that
a
the
cowboy.
ghost of a cowboy?
In the background there
Look
to
behind
right.
him.
Oh yeah. There's a really short cowboy.
All right. This one will get you. I've saved the best till
Okay.
last.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the. Do you know where that is, guys?
Right?
That's
Do you know where that
the.
is?
You're not going to say it's
Amityville
my
horror,
house,
innit?
are you?
That's the
Dude, that
Amityville
does
house.
look like going up to your stairs, actually, Nate.
You're
That's
gonna
it,
say,
that's-
that's your bedroom.
It's in the house. Yeah, that's the Amityville horror.
That's the
house.
Amityville house. That's an
Yeah.
actual photo from it, yeah. Do you want
What
to
is
see
this
the picture? I found it.
Yes.
So my lovely friend Amy, she's a beautiful human. She was at her birthday. She was she got up to do a bit of a dance, and I don't know whether you can see if I move it across.
No.
Can you see?
Move it further across,
there?
further across, further across. Oh yeah.
Can you see that hand?
Oh, I can see the hand. Yeah.
So if I just pull it out, that's Amy dancing away, and there is the hand.
Going again.
Is essentially just appears around her waist. I'm really aware that the light's there. Hang on.
It's got a weird
No,
backpack
it's not
on.
her hair.
I like
And
that.
if you see it close up, it's got fingernails. I'm not even
Oh,
kidding.
you know what? It could be hair.
No, it's not, because her hair's that short. Look where her hair is cut to.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So that's I genuinely can't explain that.
See,
Yeah,
what I
that is
can't
a weird
genuinely explain is why everybody's got a fucking video camera in the phone in the pocket, and yet we never see tons and tons of modern footage of ghosts in people's fucking houses or people's wherever. You just never see it. There's more from the past, from these black and white photos, than there are from the modern time. But there's one photo, I wish I could find it for you, that proves to me, if any photo was ever going to convince me that something weird is going on, right? Is a photo of a man. He was in the 40 Times when I was about 15. My brother used to get the 40 Times, and there'd always be a series of photographs at the beginning of weird photos from around the world. So, for example, there was one of a little kid smoking a cigarette, and this kid's like 3 years old, smoking a fucking cigarette in some tribe in God knows where. And there was also one of a guy, the moment that a football player broke his leg in the middle, took a photo at the minute that he snapped his leg. Weird photos from around the world. One of these was a black and white photo of a man who decided to take himself down to a cave near his house to have sexual intercourse with the chicken in this cave. The photo is of this man who's been flattened by a rock while he's shagging this chicken. He's got a dead chicken around his jelly. I swear to God. So
No. That chicken was climbing on the rock and fell down. That's what happened then. That wasn't.
If any photos ever convince me that you will be punished karmically for doing weird stuff, that is the one, because it's just too, like, the earth shifted because this guy couldn't keep his knob out of a chicken. You know what I mean? Somebody wanted.
I found the photo. I'm sending it to you right now.
The scariest modern photo I've seen. And it involves you and Joe, Nathan, was when Nathan's girlfriend, they got this little monitor.
Oh my God, that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
They've got this baby monitor, Nat, right?
Are we allowed to show it or not?
I don't know. I'm just sending it to the group chat. Go on, sorry. Go on.
Oh, got this baby monitor. And so they can see Robin in his bedroom. This one, he was a little baby in his cot. And Joe clicked on it and saw a woman stood over Robin in his cot in their room, and she absolutely shat her pants, quite understandably. And what it was, the camera had taken, it's like the last thing it had seen.
It's got a tiny little memory delay. It still does it
and
now. It did it to me the other night. I
really?
I went to check on him and I pressed the thing so you could see it, and all I could see was Joe's arm from when she'd just gone down.
Oh, that is horrendous.
That's terrifying.
It's a terrible picture. It's black and white. It's from a very long time ago. But that is, can you see that, guys?
Yeah.
You can see the face of a mustached man with a rock on top of him and a dead chicken on his cock. Right? Now, this is the article that came with it as well. Nat, you've done a good job here. A foul death, 39-year-old bricklayer. I can't read that name. Herminio Rivera abducted a hen in Orense, Spain, and clambered.
I love the fact that he abducted the hen.
He abducted it against its will.
There was no consent.
Not only that, he was a rapist of chickens. Anyway, so then he took it. He clambered down a riverbank to consummate his passion. Unhappily, the Spaniards' nocturnal movements dislodged a large rock, and the curious conjunction of man and bird was rudely cut short as the granite boulder plunged down onto the couple, killing both instantly. The pathologist later revealed that the man's penis was covered in feathers.
What a way to go. Imagine.
Jeez Louise, top that, guys. Bloody hell.
Wowzers.
Yeah. So if any of you in the audience out there watching this and thinking of, just, go get myself a bit of chicken, look, don't do it, guys.
Karma will get you.
Don't do it in a cave.
Do it in a field in the open air.
What do you guys prefer, horror or suspenseful when it comes to films? Like a ghost story
I like
or
suspense.
something with special effects?
No, I like suspense. Give me some suspense.
I like the suspense too.
Yeah.
Me
I do, because they balls up horror so often.
Yeah.
There's a fine line, you know, like,
I
and
agree.
they often ruin it. So, for example, Ghostwatch is a great example of that. They ruined
Yeah,
it. They went
it ended
too far
it
with it.
really badly. Yeah,
If
exactly.
I bet you could do a really good edit of Ghostwatch, right? Before it all gets stupid, just cut to black.
Yeah, no, there are several points actually where that could have ended way earlier.
that's-
with that studio thing.
That's why the original Halloween film works so well, though.
Yes.
Because it's suspenseful. You know, there's no gore. There were on that movies that made us watch that.
It's so brave. It's so brave. So the first time you see the killer in the daylight, he's just hiding behind a fucking bush.
Yeah,
he's always there, and then it's behind.
Well, the reason it's like that as well is because they didn't have a budget. You know, they made it on a shoestring, which is why all this stuff is always better.
Yeah.
Jaws that we were talking about earlier. There's not much to it in the way of gore or. You know, there's two jump scares and
used to a great effect. Some of the best endings to films have been ruined a long time ago. For example, there was a time when everyone sat here in this group, watched a movie and was genuinely impressed when it all turned out to be a dream. But once you've seen that fucking explanation, it's really
Bobby Ewan in the shower.
It's not original anymore. You know what I mean? So some of the best devices are just overused. That's why I find that certain horror movies that try to flip that around, like the Japanese stuff you were on about, Nats, using the same tricks, same arsenal, same weapons, but it's just a little bit off kilter. And it's that timing of things. When they mess up the timing of things, that's when I lose it. When I'm like, oh well, hang on a minute, this person. When they close that mirror, you're supposed to see the thing in the mirror there, and when it's not there, you're thinking, you know what I mean? So
but then he's somewhere else.
Now, isn't it?
Yeah, got off it. Can we just take a moment too? And I'm just going to mention some like absolute standout like spooky couples, but then finally settle on my favorite one. Can we just take a moment to appreciate like our Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster? You know, the Crypt Keeper, Seymour and Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors, and in my opinion, the best spooky couple, Angelica Houston as Morticia.
I knew you were going to say. I knew you were going to say the other one.
Look at this queen. Look at this absolute queen. And
they were so in love as well. Remember?
Couple goals, right?
They couldn't keep their hands off each other. They got each other. It was brilliant. Yeah, you're right.
Gomez and Morticia's romance was just the most beautifully wholesome horror that you've ever really seen. Like,
have you guys seen the animated one they did? I've not watched it yet, but I've heard that it's all right. Netflix did an animated Addams Family last year. The cast's really good. It's probably brilliant, but I've not. I just wondered if I knew.
There's a second one out, isn't there?
Second one's coming out.
Oh, really? Christ.
Yeah. But it's got the proper music and everything.
It's supposed to be good though. But
do you want to hear something weird? Last week, Robin came home.
Weirder than a chicken.
Nothing can top that. I can't think of anything weirder than that. They are using the tune of the Addams Family at school to teach Robin a song. So he came home last week and he was singing Days of the Week, Days of the Week, Days of the Week, Days of the Week, Days of the Week. There's Monday and there's Tuesday.
Blankety blank.
That's it.
Blankety blank.
It's really weird that they're using the Addams Family tune to teach the days of the week. They should be teaching them about the fucking Addams Family.
Yeah, they should.
Listen, we're approaching the 2-hour mark, lady and gents. What would you, gents? You and not me.
There are no gents here.
What is going to be your pick for this Halloween? Or if you were to have the perfect Halloween, what would be on your TV listings that evening?
Well, I'm going to say I'd go. You know me with me Christmas specials. I do the same for Halloween. I get all the Halloween specials on a memory stick and go through them all.
So what's on that memory stick, Lummy?
You've got I can tell you, you've got all your specials going back to like Cheers, things like that. Cheers, Halloween specials, Frasier.
Oh, you actually mean the Halloween special? Sorry.
The Office, Roseanne, Home Improvements, even got them. There's loads.
Yeah.
There's
Jesus,
loads.
that's dedication for you, mate.
That is amazing, Mummy. I didn't realise.
And then you've got some classic films like What a Carve Up with Sid James. Have you ever seen that?
Carry On Screaming, no doubt.
Carry On Screaming, that's on there.
Right, what's the bloody Mel Brooks one? Young Frankenstein?
Young Frankenstein, yeah. Even Dracula Dead and Love It gets on there. Abbott and Costello, Meet Frankenstein and all that, yeah.
You don't need Halloween. You need a Halloween week, not a Halloween night.
Right.
I've got Halloween. I've been watching them already. It is Halloween week. I'm already up to speed.
That's awesome. I didn't realise that you were such a traditionalist like that. That's awesome, man.
For me, I like to be a little bit spooked out, but a little bit romanticised. And for me, on my night watching, definitely, it's so good that even the American remake is good. Let the right one in.
Oh my gosh! Great book, great
film. The book is amazing. Oh my god, dude, it's Swedish. It's set in Sweden, and it's about a boy that moves into a new apartment with his mum and discovers that their next door neighbor, he's bullied at school. He discovers their next door neighbor is actually undead. She's a vampire and they're the same age, and they fall in love, and she's got his fucking back. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
It looks gorgeous, doesn't it? And then
amazing. It's
what she is.
God. And the book goes even further because you learn that the little old man that's in the book is actually in the book. He's a bit of a bad guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Guys, check it out.
A granddad figure, and you realise that actually she's just keeping him around until she can find, like, replace him with another companion, essentially.
And that's exactly what the film is about. That's who Oscar ends up kind of being, isn't it? And it's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. If you're gonna watch it, watch the Swedish version. It is beautiful.
Yeah. Okay,
and she's a bona fide, real fucking vampire, and it's just brilliant. Brilliant done. So that's on my list.
Nat, as our resident expert in all things spooky, what is on your list of things to watch this Halloween?
Okay, so I've got a whole weekend planned. I'm not even joking.
Sorry, Nat, don't mean to interrupt you. That thing's back again. Right, looking Lummy's window. Right, where Lummy's...
It's Lummy.
It's Lummy. I'd recognise them beautiful eyes anyway. Mask on.
Right, okay, you guys turn it... Right, so you can see the mask.
No, it's just Lummy, innit?
I'm not sure anymore. The line between fantasy and reality is completely blurred.
I'm just going to pretend it's not there, and this is a figment of my imagination.
Being such a skeptic, and now I'm proved wrong. I feel embarrassed.
What are you going to watch, Nat?
Okay, no, this is genuinely what's going to happen in my house on Halloween weekend. So we're going to start with the Hammer horror version of the Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing Dracula, right? It's great. Then we're going to do some Hocus Pocus because my nephew and niece are going to be here. Then we're going to watch Event Horizon. They're not going to watch that. I'm going to watch that. Nightmare on Elm Street, the Japanese version of The Ring. And then, just because I'll probably be scared after that, the Halloween episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Because they're all brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I recommend something to go with your movie-a-thon?
Yes. Yeah.
This is something that we have every Halloween now, and it's because of Jo. She makes this pumpkin soup with Gruyere cheese in it, right? Little blobs of fucking Gruyere. It's absolutely amazing. You pop it in the soup and it all melts and it goes really globular. So you get this soup with lumps of beautiful cheese in it. It's fucking amazing. I'll send you the recipe.
Yes, please. And Hocus Pocus is going to happen at some point.
I'm not the only one who's seen this, guys.
No.
I agree with you, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Those Halloween episodes are amazing.
Yeah, they're so good. Okay.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Highly recommend. Yeah.
What about you? What are you going to watch?
Nat, just quickly, Nat.
Oh, the couple from Beetlejuice, of course.
Yeah.
The Dietzes.
Yeah, man.
I forgot about the Dietzes. I forgot about Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
It's so sad when they die. They don't deserve to be ghosts. They're too nice.
Die pretty quickly as well into the film, I've always thought.
They do.
Weirdly enough, going back to my comedy horror thing, Beetlejuice was one of those films when it came out that I couldn't tell whether I was safe watching it, because one minute I'm laughing at it and the next minute those fucking sandworms outside used to scare the hell out of me.
Yeah. And the Room of Lost Souls. But you know what? Like that's like almost like a fun version of Candyman, isn't it? Candyman. Oh, that's a good one.
Candyman's great. Well, has anyone seen the? You're gonna ask the same thing.
Yeah,
Have you seen it now?
Anybody seen the remake yet?
Yeah. I'm
Is
a
it
bit of a
good?
sucker for the. Now, I'm a huge fan of the original. I think it's fantastic. But I did think that they treated the remake really, like I think they did it really well. They produced a really good.
What film did you say?
Candyman.
Yeah.
What film?
I have probably
One more time. You've said it twice.
So
nearly.
How many times do you have to say it then?
3 times, isn't it?
3.
Yeah, 3 times.
Although you all said it at the same time, does that count?
No. Beetlejuice. How many times do you have to say Beetlejuice then?
3.
3.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. So you could summon Candyman and Beetlejuice at the same time.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice, Candyman, Beetlejuice, Candyman, Beetlejuice, Candyman.
Jesus. Get to fight to
Oh my
the
God.
death.
Weirdly
Answer
enough,
to your question, Webby.
Sorry,
Probably the creep shows. I like creep shows because I like. It's just a
Gosh, you're a creep show.
Because I'm a creep show.
Mate,
Just because
honestly,
lots of little stories, and
if
they're
you can
silly
track
and they're
it down-
scary and they're brilliant. You know.
If you can track it down, I highly recommend for you and Sylvia in particular to sit down and watch Let the Right One In, because it's a really romantic, beautiful,
No,
not
it's good.
scary.
Good.
Dude, it's not scary. It's
No,
fucking
that's
brilliant.
why I don't want to watch it. I want to watch it. It's going to scare me on Halloween.
Well,
In a mirror. We forgot.
That's true. Yeah. good
Yeah,
point.
you're right. It does have to be.
Yeah, but
in
we're
a
not
it's gotta be.
technically.
Although we
looking in
are
the mirror
effectively
right now,
looking at
we're
ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not saying it, but no, I do recommend watching the new Candyman. I did enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will give it a go. I'm a fan of the.
We've got. It's interesting what you said about Dracula. Actually, what's your favourite Dracula version? Is a good question, I guess, isn't it? Watching Hammer Horror, Captain Crow's Vampire on BBC's Dracula from 1977. My favourite one is from 1979 with what's his name? Oh, Skeletor, Frank Langella.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I'm going to
Okay,
say
yeah.
something Candy. I swear to God, I thought. Right,
You know, I don't like Dracula. Don't like any of the Dracula films. Love the book, but don't like any of the
I quite
Dracula
liked,
films.
despite myself, I quite liked the Dracula BBC one they did a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. That was by the
Oh
show
no, that
time.
was good actually. That
That
was
was
pretty
probably
good.
my
Yeah,
favourite
that was pretty
incarnation
good.
of it.
The
And
one
there
that
were some
Big,
bits in that were pretty scary as well.
this one that Big T Moore's mentioned, the one from BBC, is the mini series. It's actually the closest one to the book ever made. Did you know that?
Is it?
Yeah, I do. I've seen
Right,
that.
okay.
One.
Yeah.
I've
The book's
never
great.
been a big Dracula fan because we had the Lost Boys and stuff like that. Which
The
Yeah.
Lost
Yeah,
Boys
yeah.
is the best.
you know what I
love
mean?
it.
I mean, if you can find me a film more 80s than that, I'll give you some sort of prize. But bloody hell,
Yeah, The Craft is
Craft.
great actually. My huge fan
Yeah,
of The
it is
Craft,
good.
Yeah.
has
Yeah,
that
it's
been
good.
remade yet? With a
Yeah, as they did.
Oh,
Has it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't watch
Apparently-
it. It's not worth it.
Apparently the remakes shitola.
It is.
okay.
Shitola. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like
The thing is, with things like Candyman, you have to be trying really hard to screw it up because it's a scary story. It's a scary
Yeah.
premise, and you don't even need much. You just need people, some mirrors, some lighting. You know what I mean?
it's a guy with a
I think the
hook and
first
bees in
one's
his mouth,
filmed in
for God's
Liverpool.
sake. Yeah.
Mm.
Ugh. Do you know
I
that
think-
he was given $1,000 for every time he was stung? He got it put into his contract.
Oh,
And I
right.
think
Really?
Yeah, during the whole movie, I think he earned something like he didn't earn much extra because he was hardly stung. But he said every time I'm stung, I want an extra $1,000. I think he got an extra $30,000 or
Didn't
something.
they just keep going, ow! Oh,
yeah.
it's
Oh,
another
another
one.
one.
Ow. Or even grabbing them.
Just imagine them. Yeah, I'll just they walk into the room and he's rolling around in a big pile of bees.
Covered in bees.
I tell you a scary Dracula experience I had was you must have been through it. The Dracula experience in Whitby.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, we should have mentioned this earlier before the show because I've got some photos
Sorry.
from it.
Oh,
Have you?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
man.
I took a load of photos when I once went around because it was so funny.
So this, when I went when I was older, it was
Balls on
laughable.
them.
When I went when I was 11, I absolutely filled my shorts, and I remember walking through and holding the coat of the person in front of me who was like a 15-year-old girl who I didn't know, and I was just holding this stranger's coat as I'm going through this. I absolutely filled them.
I've never been able to find it.
Though, that is not the Dracula experience. The Dracula experience is a bat flies through your window and bites you in the neck. That's the experience, not watching a cheesy fucking...
Yeah, unless I'm going to be an actual vampire. Fuck off.
Down in the details. Yeah, don't waste my time.
Oh my God, if you could be any horror movie monster, what would it be?
Oh.
Horror movie monster can we include like cryptids in this as well?
Yeah, like we're talking like the whole genres from swamp people to vampires, from zombies to aliens. Like if you could choose like a under that loose sci-fi horror genre umbrella, what would it be?
I'd probably go for Bigfoot.
That's a good one, man. Yeah. Just
leave me alone. Yeah, just leave me alone. Just fuck off and leave me alone. Let me just live in the countryside and everyone just leave me
Would you live with the Hendersons? Or would you just
the Hendersons? They were wholesome, man.
I'd like to be Freddy Krueger for a couple of days, just because he's got that perfect blend of murderous but yet hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you wouldn't want
everything.
He doesn't
you have to be careful when you're wiping your bum, though, wouldn't you?
Amazing puns, and yeah, that's how.
And a catchy little sort of nursery rhyme about you as well.
Yeah, and I hate kids. Kidding.
What about you,
Lummy? What would you be?
I think I'd go for Dracula. I quite like Dracula. I'd like a bit of a fly around. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't mind having hairy palms.
You don't have hairy palms. Not in the.
Dracula has hairy palms.
Not in my version. You won't. I'd be shaving them all the time.
Christopher Lee never had hairy palms.
You'd have to shave your hands every 5 minutes. Like your face. I think you'd make a good Dracula because nobody would suspect you because you're so daft. You know what I mean? Nobody'd see it coming. You'd be like, "Oh, tripped up and bit your neck." You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I'd do to claim my victims. You're right. I'd trip over my cape. I go, "Oh,
brilliant,
right.
Brilliant." What about you, Nat? What did you say you want to be?
I think probably maybe like one of those ghost cursed girls from like the Japanese or Korean movies, like like the Grudge Girl, just because like nobody can stop her. She can be a seething ball of rage as often as she wants. If you piss her off, she's got this little ghost boy that haunts you till she can get to you. She can appear out of hoodies, for God's sake. Like, yeah, I'll go for that. I'll go for just cursed ghost.
I think that's a great idea, Nat, but I also would like to throw, on your behalf, my hat into the ring and suggest that you'd make a really good gingerbread house witch.
Oh, I thought you were going to suggest Nat becomes you. You're not a classic girl. I'll throw my hat in the ring, Nat. You become
There's a little bit of a problem with that, in that, who's the person that keeps eating all these kids? You think it's that crazy bitch that lives in the woods in the gingerbread house? Nah, it's probably not her.
I mean, if you're going to make me live in the woods and be a witch, I'd rather be a Sanderson sister than a gingerbread house. I'd rather be in Hocus Pocus, to be honest.
But I could come around and visit you as well, Nat, because I'll be living in the woods as well as Sasquatch. So
yeah, you can see me. Them two can do one, me and you. On a tea.
Sorry, kids, I can't eat it right now. That fucking Bigfoot's back in my garden. Nibbling me windows.
Wolfman's a good suggestion, Big T. I just think it'd be really painful transforming into a wolf. I did think Wolfman at first, but
also you've got to think about you want superpowers and stuff, don't you? If you're going to transform into something. Now, Wolfman don't really do all. He just runs around and gets shot.
Bigfoot doesn't
either. Bigfoot, your days are numbered, aren't they? Because you can't go out. People see you. You've had it.
That's a good point.
You see him all the time. It's never been
Dracula. I'd be like, you're coming to get me. It could turn into a dog. It could turn into a mist.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward social situation. Turn into a mist.
That'd be it.
Dracula has hairy palms and really bad breath. They're the two things that I remember about him. Really,
not when he's in his other form. When he's in the first form.
I don't think I could do it because I like garlic too much, man.
That's true. That's true.
Don't look at the downsides as well.
Yeah.
No, well, actually, do you want to?
Teen Wolf.
Yeah, good shout, Big T.
And an interesting fact about vampires as well. So they used to say that a vampire couldn't see their reflection because in the olden days, when I was a lass, vampires had silver at the back of them. Sorry, vampires, mirrors.
Mirrors.
Had silver at the back of them, so the reflective surface was silver, and
and
silver
that's
obviously
why.
for a supernatural. Now mirrors are mass produced cheaply, so it's not silver. So
Right.
vampire could now, or a queen of vampires, as we've just had that lovely comment, could now see their reflection. So
This is
yeah.
why Lost Boys is such an awesome film, because it plays with those
Yes,
little
he
it
did,
riffs
Bobby.
on those. You have to you've got to be invited into the house, or you're useless. You can't do anything. So you've got to trick them into inviting you in. There's bits with the mirror. There's the
Yeah,
dog
but
that
look
he's
at,
got.
like,
His
Lost
best friend is his
Boys.
dog. And when he turns into the vampire and tries to get his younger brother, the dog turns on his master and attacks him because he doesn't want him to bite the little brother.
You could,
You know what I
you
mean?
could easily get invited into someone's house. Or look at Lost Boys. You're the master of the house, and I'm not coming in until I'm invited. And he invites him.
Exactly.
And yeah, do you know what I mean?
That's what I like about it, is that premeditated
Yeah.
reason to give. You know what I mean? Like, I've got to think of a way of getting it. It's so easy. But
That last comment, though, I've got to say that he popped up. Which one was it?
what was it?
The one Tim Curry's Pennywise.
Yeah. Can I
Tim
just
Curry's
agree with that whole
fucking-
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
Amazing.
I agree.
And especially when he's in makeup. So even as Frankenfurter, there's no reason for you to be sort of turned on and twisted round about this
So
character that
sexy.
you're actually a bit scared of, but sexy as hell and charming as fuck.
Yeah.
And
Let's
part
be
of you
honest.
thinks you would
If he,
get bitten
if
on
he
the neck
burst
by
into
a
your
guy like
bedroom,
that.
you'd do it, wouldn't you? You'd do it.
I'd have a fucking dance routine with it. I'd love to be in that musical. I'd love that film. I love it.
Yeah, but you'd
Been
do him
obsessed
as
with
well,
it
wouldn't
since I
you?
was
Anyone
12.
would. Look at him.
Yeah,
Just saying.
totally.
Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah, in fact, so much so that every other role he's done, whenever I watch him in things like Clue or It, I'm like, that's Frankenfurter, you know what I mean? There's still a bit of me that's
Home Alone
a bit
2.
of me.
I've trolled through all the photos to try and find that Whitby. I can't find it. It's somewhere.
Yeah.
Next
So,
Halloween.
well, listen, ladies and gents, is there anything that you would like to plug before we leave this mortal?
We're not leaving, are we? We're not
Yeah.
leaving, are we?
Could never leave.
We've got the most viewers ever hanging on to our every word here.
Even wanting more, Lummy. It's the case of
Should
it's
have
all
had an
geek to
evil
me.
laugh round, man. Missed the trick there.
An evil
Evil
laugh
laugh
round.
round.
Well, do an evil laugh round. Go for it then. Go on, Webby. What's your evil laugh?
Well, you're going to have to come to me in a minute, because I've just expended some energy. I can't just suck an evil laugh back in. That was a good
Nat,
one.
do you have an evil laugh? That's
Apparently, I
evil
just
laugh.
did one. Apparently, I just
Yeah,
did
you're
one.
all-
But like, I feel like an evil laugh would be more like a, like more like from the chest, wouldn't it? Like a that type of thing.
Nice.
Good.
What about
I've got a
yours,
double
Lummy?
chin doing that.
Imagine that though. Hang on. You ready? Scary.
Yes,
Anything could be
terrifying.
scary in the hands of our Lummy. Horror talents.
Oh dear.
How about
I
us?
think I'd like to put a questioning inflection towards the end of mine and see what happens. I don't know if it's going to be scary, but I'm going to try a. Halfway through his evil laugh, he's thinking, "What am I actually
Deciding.
laughing at? I've forgotten."
Yeah.
So I was thinking of like a sort of slightly more subtle.
Oh, that's a bit sinister, isn't it? Oh, that's full of malice.
Subtle
Like an unimpressed,
satisfaction.
slightly unimpressed evil.
Yeah.
I felt like you were probably going to murder me. I'll be honest.
Sounds like Jabba the Hutt.
Still time, that. Still time.
Nabucco solo.
Lummy, is there anything that you want to plug before we leave? Is there
There's
anything you want
loads.
to go and
Loads
say?
of stuff. There are
Lummy.
loads. But I've got.
Box Office Radio. What's going on? Do you have a spooky episode of Box Office Radio this week?
Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. There you go.
What's going
Halloween
on?
special.
What have you
I've
got?
got.
What you got? Any big hits on there?
Oh, we got all sorts tomorrow night. We've got Beetlejuice. We've got a bit of Lost Boys for you. We've got a song
Nice.
for Lost Boys. We've got all sorts. Dracula.
That
It's
sounds
all on there.
fantastic.
What's it called? Hocus Pocus track from there, and there's all
Have
sorts.
you anything from
Have you got
Ghostbusters on
any
there?
chance to-
I haven't. Do you know what? I've avoided Ghostbusters off there because I always play Ghostbusters tracks in the show, and I thought,
But that
let's
last
go
song,
different.
though, the last song, the Believe in This Magic, that's a brilliant song. Although I think that's actually from the chorus onwards of the actual song. So the first bit's not at all scary. You know, the please.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's actually like the
You know
halfway
what,
through the
man?
song. But it's
Horror
scary.
theme is a massive part of the enjoyment of the movie for me, because you only need, like, look at Halloween. Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
ding.
Yeah.
Three notes.
Yeah.
That's on there.
You know what I mean?
Well, the reason I kept Ghostbusters out of it, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do a Ghostbusters music special when the film comes out. A full go.
In November. Brilliant.
I've also got, I promised Trading Card Tony I'd plug his show, man. I don't do it anyway. And it's got
Trading Card Tony.
three Halloween specials. I've got the things. Here we go. This was today. Blair Witch Project.
Nice.
Right. Wednesday. This Nightmare on Elm Street stickers.
Nice.
And Friday, Universal Monsters.
So where does Trading Card Tony get all of his stickers from? Do you know?
I asked him, he won't tell me.
Really?
Tell me.
Because I'm quite surprised that he's still able to get Nightmare on Elm Street stickers now.
Yeah.
I know he's a bit like Candyman and he's quite hard to get in touch with, but why don't you ask him if he wants to pop on show and open some cards for us?
Maybe.
Love that.
Maybe. All
Love
right.
that.
I'll ask him. I'll see what he says. He might tell you all to go to hell, but you know.
Yeah, he might.
But if he's got a pack that'll fit in with the theme of the show, maybe so.
Maybe.
Are there any
dear,
gigs
guys.
going on? Any gigs going on this week that people can come and see you?
I've got. I'm gigging. I don't think. Nat, you're not gigging this week. I'm MCing some gigs actually. I've got a full weekend MCing. So I've got Friday in Bradford. I've got Saturday somewhere else, and then I've got Sunday at a castle on Halloween night with UK comedy.
Where's the castle?
It's Angle. Is it Angle Castle? Angle Castle.
Don't make it up, mate.
I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Angle. It's up near. It's near that other castle that guy drove to for eye test.
This is how the horror movie of Lummy's
Barnard
life
Castle.
It's near that. It's near there.
This is it. This is how the movie of his life, the horror movie version of Lummy's life starts, where he ends.
Yeah.
The film starts with this Zoom call where he goes, "Oh, guys,
Yeah.
yeah, good news. I'm off to a castle on Halloween."
Yeah.
Don't say that.
So what's going to happen while you're at this castle on Halloween night?
I know.
Just
I know,
don't
that'd be,
take any chickens with you, mate. You know. That's all
Why
I'm
don't
worried
you?
about.
Why don't you film it for us and show us next week some nice shaky hand cam footage of you being really scared in the castle?
Well, I'll be driving down.
I don't want to go on stage, or the other funny men will laugh at me.
It's a bit of a windy road to get down there. Maybe on the way back, I might have a little spooky story for you. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I like that. Webby,
Right.
anything going on this week? Anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want
The only
people
thing
to
I'm going to
watch
have
because
to plug
it's scary?
is my own pee hole if we don't end soon. I'm going to have to plug that with you because I really need a week. Told you.
Gotcha. Nat,
Coffee
what's
with
going
a
on for
mistake.
you this week?
Do you know what? I would love it if people would just check out the discount comedy checkout. Go onto the website. Chris and I are in the comedy group. It's fantastic. Check out the website and see our shows. Come and see us live. It's a really good night. Or look at the podcast. You can find it on all your streaming services. Discount comedy checkout. Have a great time. Yeah, we might even have some Halloween specials. I don't know. Chris would know. I don't know.
Halloween specials.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Ooh.
We've got Halloween themed videos up, haven't we, for discount?
There you
But we haven't done a Halloween special show for ages. We've got
Maybe
Christmas
we-
specials will be coming up, but yeah.
Yeah.
Argyll Castle, it's called, by the way.
There you
Oh,
go.
good. Glad.
Argyll Castle.
Argyle Castle.
No, Argyll. Augill.
Ah,
It's not Argyle, is it? That.
No, that's not
No.
Argyle. That's not Argyle. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching our Halloween Spooktacular. Thank you to Big T Moore. Thank you to Martin. Thank you to Bulletproof Blouse. Thank you to Mandy. Thank you to Gary. Thank you to Stuart. And thank you to Bob, all for commenting and being a part of the show. Don't forget to share the heck out of our content to try to build a community and increase our collective nerd knowledge. And go over to our Twitter page at It's All Geek Twit. But for now, my name's been Rich, he's been Lummy, that's been Natalie, and that has been Nathan Webb. And we are going to see you very soon. Goodbye.